Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and joining me tonight is Austin the Day Ghost. We are finally tackling the fourth season of The Simpsons, and Austin, you and I have made lots and lots of shows in between our last season and this season, but none of them about The Simpsons. Well, except for one. I think we did a we did a mini marathon off the cuff thing.
And I pitched a second one of Sideshow Bob episodes. But we never got to that.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about doing that. See, that's going to spoil a lot of stuff for me, because I haven't seen most of those.
Well, they're really interesting to watch, like, together, because there's, like, a very clear, like, let's not repeat the same episode plot early on, and then after a while it just becomes him versus Bart every time.
See, I thought they were all him versus Bart. I thought that was kind of the joke. But what I thought you were going to say was that there was, like, a clear sense of continuity.
No, and there is some of that, too.
Yeah, well, we should do that at some point. That'll be interesting. But then it'll be kind of weird doing some of those before we get to them in the seasons. Anyway, it has been as long since we last did a Simpsons overview as it took me, Austin, to make Spawn Year.
That's really funny.
Isn't that crazy? So, I'm not proud of that. In my defense, I've had twins since then, and we've had a number of points where we started preparing for this, and then things came up, and weeks got away from us, and it's all my fault, really. I was never able to do it. Austin was always ready for me to pull the trigger on it. He was super patient. I really appreciate it. But yeah, my life doesn't work in regular time anymore. Like, it doesn't feel like it's been that long.
No, I feel like for like the last 2 years, you just had this like constant ringing in your head that's like, we're having more kids. See Simpsons overviews. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Joe. That I watched probably 2/3 of the season with my son Jason, and he kind of wanted to come on for this, but he didn't get a chance to watch every episode. And seeing most of it, I still probably would have let him come on and chat with us. But he also just got back from dance tonight and had to eat, so it wasn't a real great time for him to come on with us. But maybe down the road he'll do some of this with us, or if we ever get to Futurama, because he loves that show.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
But the Hello Joe thing, sorry, I brought him up to say the Hello Joe thing, that's the thing that made him laugh the hardest. Was just that bit, and I think it's because of the weird repeated gag they always do with that. Like, there's a formula where if characters are remembering things, they're doing that kind of classic movie thing where you're motivation is influenced by things people have said earlier in the episode. There's 4, and then they have to rotate again. I don't know why they do that, and I don't know why it's funny, but it is.
That is probably this season's favorite joke to use, because they use it like 8 times. But it's always 3, and it's always 2 are like an important thing to what they're thinking, and then the third is just like an oddball, curveball that they throw in.
See, I didn't write them all down, but with the episode you were talking about, it was actually 4, because I counted them.
Oh, is it 4?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 4 in that one.
And I think when they do it a couple episodes later, maybe you're right. Maybe it's 3 then. And then that one's funny because I'm like, wait a minute, you're repeating this joke, which made it funnier somehow. But I called foul on it for a second. Like, binging this is weird because they're kind of counting on you not seeing things in rapid succession sometimes, right? And when I can't remember which episode it is, but it comes up again just a couple episodes later, and then they let you know that they know they're repeating it because that lady shows up in the next scene.
Yeah, so it's in, off the top of my head, it's in that episode, Lisa's First Word.
Lisa's First Word
it's
is
in,
the first one.
Marge versus the Monorail. It's in Marge in Chains. It's in Last Exit to Springfield, which is when they do 2 instead of 3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
And
I didn't realize they did it that often.
Oh, yeah, no, this season loves that joke.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things that, maybe not that in particular, because I kept finding it really funny, but there's a couple of things that I think...
Oh, yeah, no, it is always funny.
There's a couple of things I do think they rely on a little too much.
Mm-hmm. No, it's just funny that, like, they clearly really loved that as an idea, and it just keeps coming up.
Anyway, let me kind of set the stage here, and then we'll start talking about the season. Welcome if you're watching live, and thanks for watching after the fact. We're starting a little bit earlier tonight than we usually do, and there's not as many folks here as we usually start with for these, although maybe that's because it's been 2 years, and so just nobody cares anymore. Apologies, I feel bad about that. We're going to make sure that it's not 2 years in between this and the next one, and I want to start really prioritizing these. I gotta be honest with you, Austin, I'm also, I don't mind admitting, a little bit intimidated by just the whole season overview thing, like trying to keep this much stuff in my head. And I think at the start with Simpsons, I was just really excited to plow through these, and so I was, and I still am, but I was kind of not letting it, hurt my confidence. And then after we did the third season, and it's more episodes, it was kind of more complex and with just a lot to keep track of, and I was like, I don't know, I didn't feel real qualified, doing this kind of thing, because they all run together at some point for me if I with a show like this that I don't know super well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's completely understandable, especially like the first 3 seasons have less and less growing pains, and then this one has none. So I think it's like really easy to get kind of lost in that. Which like most episodes, if not all of them, are like not interchangeable in terms of ranking. Like this is the first season we've done that I haven't ranked them.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you if you did that, because I thought about it, and then enough of it ran together that I wasn't really... I feel like I should have done it as I went along, probably. Not to say that,
it's so arbitrary.
Yeah, like, if you throw an episode title at me, at this point, I'll probably at least remember, like, something of the A story, but for me, the stuff that most runs... Some of the B plots I won't remember. I have this problem with Next Generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to talk about Star Trek later, because the history of this is starting to really remind me of TNG. But it's more about particular gags, because by this point in the series, I think we're seeing a lot more kind of random jump cuts to different scenes and to different moments, and there's this random sensibility to it that it didn't have as much with the first 3 seasons. That's very much like, I think, Conan O'Brien's influence and a couple of the other probably new writers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, there's a lot more jumping around. There's a lot more cutaway gags, and the big thing is that the first 3 seasons are setting up the world, and this isn't anymore. So it's just like, hey, here's this plot. Let's see what everyone's doing, because we have all these established characters.
Yeah.
And just like, how is it affecting this person? How is it affecting that person? And you can like get in and get like a ton of gags out of that.
Yeah, one of the big things I noticed right away, and if you're watching live, feel free to throw in comments and we'll interact with you as much as we can through the show. Also, let me remind everybody that we are continuing our format from the first 3 seasons. It's been 2 years. We could have completely reinvented it, but we didn't. At the end of the show, we're going to watch an episode and do a commentary over it. We're not doing, obviously, the whole season, just an episode right at the end. And we put up a poll that hopefully you voted in. I didn't actually close the poll, but I'm just going to stick with whatever I've got right now. And because I don't think there's probably any chance that the top thing won't get kicked out by now. So we're gonna do Marge versus the Monorail, which should be no surprise to anybody. Although for a while there, so we opened this up to the Geekvolution public, and for a while there, it looked like I Love Lisa was gonna win, which really shocked me.
Yeah, so I voted in every poll, and every poll I never pick an episode that I think has a chance of winning, because I'm like, I won't, put it in that way. I'll just pick like a smaller episode that I like. And that was the one I voted for this time.
Wow.
And I voted for it, and it was like, oh, it's winning. Okay.
That's really surprising.
That one.
And as you said, there are It's such a strong season, and I know for a lot of people, this is one of, if not the best seasons, and we'll talk about why. But it's real sharp, it's real tight, and there are almost no episodes that are even worthy of putting on a worst of list. We certainly did pick a worst. But it's harder this season than some others, and so there were a lot of good contenders, certainly, and I Love Lisa is a good episode, but I figured it would probably, if there were two episodes that were fighting for it, it would be Monorail and Mr. Plow.
Yeah, and Mr. Plow is I think tied with 3 other episodes for second, maybe.
It only got 1 vote.
Oh, so it's not even there.
It's not even there. It got 1 vote. Now, I didn't vote, but if I had, I probably would have voted for Mr. Plow. And that's not necessarily giving away my favorite episode. I just thought that would be fun to watch with you, honestly.
You just wanted to see Adam West again.
Well, that may have something to do with it, yeah. But I mean, maybe a toss-up between Adam West and Nimoy with Monorail. We're gonna get that, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a win-win for you.
Yeah, this season, there's a lot of my 2 favorite shows from 1966 in this season.
Just wait till we get to the season 7 with the Radioactive Man movie.
Oh yeah, I have seen that one, but it's been a long time.
Then you'll get 66 and 89 parody stuff.
Well, we did get an 89 parody in this season also, but it's not in that episode.
Yeah.
So, Austin, let's kind of back up a little bit. And first of all, I just want to ask you, is this... I mean, we're doing... You're doing another watch through, so maybe things will change for you, but I know you know this series, pardon me, like the back of your hand, and I know Star Trek. Do you consider this your favorite season, or is it maybe tied with some others?
So, my favorite era is 5 and 6, is the David Merkin show ran seasons. But outside of that, it's probably this, I guess. I don't know. I feel like this... I don't know, because it's either this or it's 7 or 8, and I'm not sure. I feel like I need to rewatch 7 and 8 to fully justify that, but, I mean, this is up there. This is, I think, the best season we've done.
If we can start putting these out more often than every 2 years, this will be a really good exercise for you in ranking the seasons, watching it all in order. Because I think you've told me before that, I mean, you watch the show all the time, but you're skipping around a lot, right? Like you're not blowing through seasons.
It's been a long time since I've fully watched through just seasons or the show. Yeah.
The reason I wasn't sure if you would call this your favorite or not is because you told me that you knew the season so well that you could almost do this overview without even rewatching it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I know you did rewatch it.
Yeah, because I think 4 to 8 are probably the seasons that I rewatch the most. When I started buying all the seasons and would just go through them. And season 5 was always my comfort season. So
see, I thought that was this. So it's 5 that's your kind of go-to. Put on when you're in not the best mood.
The Merkin era.
So, this is kind of a weird transition season then. Like, who is technically the showrunner during the season? Because I know the main showrunners leave and they're kind of sitting with a skeleton crew, which makes it remarkable how good the season is.
Yeah, so this is Al Jean and Mike Reese, who would go on to create The Critic. They did 3 and 4. Because we're still in the era where we're changing every 2 seasons.
Okay. I thought, because I knew a lot of writers left, I thought the actual showrunners left, but I forgot that Gene and Reese did the previous season.
No, so they leave, this is their last season, and then they leave to do The Critic, and David Merkin takes over.
And I know you'll be able to tell me who it is, I know there's a member of the staff, one of the producers that was there from the very beginning, that leaves this season because he gets... because he doesn't feel like he's finding any joy in it anymore, but he had a contract with them where he kept getting a paycheck until he died.
Oh, so probably Sam Sam Simon.
Sam Simon.
I think
that's who it
I think
was.
that's who it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I was reading up a bit in the last couple days, but I just don't know the behind-the-scenes guys that well with the show.
Well, it makes sense because Sam Simon is the guy that's like always thought of as the person that brings the heart to the show, and we're like, not that we've lost it.
It was
like,
definitely Sam Simon.
We're getting away from like schmaltz.
Yes. Well, and I could see him feeling like it was getting darker and a little bit more mean-spirited than it was before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And if I have any difficulty,
like more of a cynical bite.
Yes, if I have any difficulty with it this season versus the previous ones, it is that. But it constantly wins me over, just with its comedy, and it's kind of odd that because. I said with season 3 that I'm this weirdo that kind of prefers season 2. Like, I like the sensibilities of 2 the best, and I still have that. I can't say 2 is better than 4. I mean, I'm not going to be a crazy person and say that. But I kind of wish somehow it could retain the somewhat, I don't want to say wholesome, but the somewhat more lighthearted and like family sort of sensibility that season 2 does, with still the satirical bite that the season has. And there are episodes that really do find that balance. There's like 4 or 5 that are perfection of what I want from this show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure I can probably guess based on like the heartfelt endings with which ones they are.
Yeah, or if not endings, just heartwarming moments in a few places. Like, that list was longer for me this time than in 3.
Okay.
The legitimately heartwarming moments list, and I'll give my runner-ups when we get to the list.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I just put in one runner-up, but like there's so many that you can put in.
Yeah, that was the only note-taking I did pretty much this season was just a bunch of contenders for each of our categories, and so I'll have a lot of things to talk about with those, and I thought we could use that to facilitate the conversation. So we'll try to get to the list earlier tonight than we have been. That's going to be the only shake-up that we do with the format. Is we're gonna do a lot of our discussion around the items in the list because there's so many contenders for things, and that'll help us make sure to hit most of the episodes in some way or another. So, Austin, why don't you give us a little bit of background about the season versus the last?
I'm trying to think. Like, I don't think there's like too much like shake-up stuff happening. Like, I think it's mostly just like I know when we did season 3, I think the big complaint that we had was that with new showrunners, it felt like people coming in with kind of kid gloves and being like, we don't want to ruin this, and there was maybe like a little safeness to it. And I think the biggest difference between now and then is I think that's completely gone. Like, I think they're like fully confident in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like my biggest thing. And this season I think is a lot more entertainment focused. There's a lot more just like characters get involved with the entertainment business, whether it's animation, Hollywood, the theater. There's a lot more stuff like that. So there's a lot more guest stars and just bringing actors in for like one line in this season.
Yeah,
than there ever was.
And I find myself somewhat conflicted about that choice. And we talked about this a lot with the first couple of seasons, where they really avoided, for the most part, big celebrity guest stars, because it seemed too gimmicky and it's an easy thing to rely on. And of course, later seasons really rely on it, and then that becomes a big issue with other adult cartoon shows that are influenced by this show or inspired by this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
People think of Family Guy as that's all it does.
Yeah, and it's like nothing but like the cutaway gags, except without proper setup, like this has.
Yeah, like there are places where I feel like it is kind of relying on it too much. Like if you watch it all together, you're like, wow, there's a lot more of that. But then, if you watch like an episode every week or two, you might not be thinking about that as much. Uh,
Mhm.
and you make a really good point with the entertainment theme and the satire that has been there from the beginning, particularly about the television and it making people lazy and doing their thinking for them and all of that. But when you've got so many episodes about that, maybe it makes more sense to bring in guest stars. And so then you have kind of a chicken and the egg question, where it's like, are we bringing in uh, big celebrity guest stars because that's our theme, or is that our theme because we thought to bring in big celebrity guest stars and we don't want to look like we just know how popular we are now and everybody wants to be on our show? Because I think in some ways the show is really benefiting from, like, I think it's smarter about it than most shows have been, where it's actually benefiting from the fact that it's popular now and it knows it. And then that's one of the places where maybe it's a little bit of a detriment, but then they're smart with what they do with those guest stars most of the time.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And one of the big things that you'll see like move across each season is that there's like different sections of characters in the world. Where you have like the like Homer work side, you have like the kids side, and I feel like the Krusty side is Krusty's probably the side character that gets the most use like throughout the season. And the kids supporting cast isn't used very much in this season. I don't know if you were really thinking about that while watching it, but a lot like most of the kid episodes go away from the school, so there isn't a ton of that this season.
That's true. No, I didn't really notice that.
Yeah, like you'll get like the kids go to camp, the kids go to uh, like Duff Gardens, the kids go become writers, and there's not a lot of Bart gets expelled for an episode. There's a lot of just like moving them away from that.
Well, and at least the Camp Krusty episode, all the kids go there too, so some of them have things to do, but that's a holdover from the previous season.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's true too. When there was talks about that being like I don't know if it was just like a straight to DVD movie or like
Yeah,
a
I'm not.
TV movie, but there was
Yeah,
talks that would be a movie.
I couldn't find any information about how it would have released if they did it, and I don't think they ever got that far.
Hmm.
Because that was it Al Jean that wanted that? There, like
I
one
think
of
so.
yeah, one of the showrunners wanted that, and then the argument from the staff was, well, we had a hard time making this whole episode. I don't know how we do 80 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that just seems like one of those, like at the time, like a kind of an obvious like, The Simpsons go to camp, like that is the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of that going on at that point,
No,
so I
it
feel like it
was.
probably started from
Sorry, it
that.
was Gene that shut it down and made the argument I just mentioned.
Oh, okay.
It was Brooks that wanted it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, James L. Brooks
Well,
said you guys should
he's
make
like the
that.
money guy, so
Say it again.
he's like the money guy, so that makes sense.
Yeah. There has to be an episode that if you were going to expand it to a movie, it would be more logical than that.
I feel like at the time that makes sense, but yeah, I'd like at that point you could turn anything into a movie.
No, I mean as a premise, you're right, but
Mhm.
they made 18 minutes and struggled to figure out how to get the rest of it. Like they added verses to the song
I didn't know that. That's really
because
funny.
they couldn't get it the right like, and that was a recurring problem this season. As I was reading behind the
Mm.
scenes stuff, there were a few episodes that they had difficulty getting to a full 20 minutes, which is the reason that I forget which one of the last episodes has that
The
really
Flanders
that
bit?
really random 1 minute Flanders bit. It's just because they had a minute left to fill, so they did that, and then that
Whoa.
inspired apparently an episode later that I've not seen, but
That's
of course
exactly what I was going to
of
bring
course
up.
you'll
Yeah.
know about. That's like it's like 22 like 1 minute short pieces.
Mhm. Which is a great episode. Like if there's anything, that kind of not delay, but like coming in under time has given us. It was that episode. Like that's perfect.
I was excited about that when I read about that. I was like, that sounds
Mhm.
cool. I mean, maybe I saw it when I was a
That
kid.
is like Pulp Fiction, the Simpsons episode. Yeah.
Danaverse says it was supposed to be a theatrical film. He says, I listened to the audio commentary. Fox wanted them to make multiple movies at first. Well, and Fox, as was typical of them, had a lot of bad ideas that luckily they didn't get forced to do. One of them was, we'll talk about, of course, the clip show episode and why that was made. It was, made for pretty obvious reasons. And because they were overworked and struggling to get the episode count in, and that's why those things usually happen. That or something like the really bad clip show in TNG season 2 where there was a writer's strike. That's another reason that kind of thing will sometimes happen. Fox apparently wanted them to do 4 of those a season.
Yep, isn't that insane?
I mean, that's what happens when you're not worried about the creative side and you're just, penny pinching, and you're because apparently the deal was they cost half as much to make, of course, because you're only really writing like an act and a half. So they take it costs half as much to make, but then the money that they make in syndication is exactly the same.
Yeah, so that's the studio idea right there.
The biggest change that happened between third and fourth season is they switched animation houses, and when that happened, the producers made a big deal out of not wanting the quality to change, and I would argue that it did, and for the better. I think the season is gorgeous, and there's a lot. We talked about some really impressive animation and really kind of cinematic looking stuff, and ambitious like camera moves and things, or what looks like camera moves in the third season. Third season doesn't have anything like that shot of Bart with the dentures with the ceiling fan. That thing is amazing.
Yeah,
that they pulled that off the way they did. That looks incredible.
Yeah, and in Selma's Choice, there's the part where Lisa is on like a drug trip, which she has multiple times in the season.
Yeah,
but she sees Selma and she's like mutated, and it looks like one of the character models from the Beavis and Butthead movie that was done in like the Rob Zombie music video section.
Oh, really?
Which is like a really, really well animated thing. And I was like, man, like this looks so good for TV. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then of course you've got the whole Yellow Submarine thing, which is amazing.
Yeah, the other Lisa drug trip out.
That's the best Lisa drug trip episode.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Or at least moment.
Peace on the sky, no diamonds though.
No diamonds though. I forgot about that. Hey, I'm just gonna bring up stuff as I think of it. Austin, can you explain to me what the deal is this season with Ren and Stimpy?
Yes, so Matt Groening back in the day said that Ren and Stimpy was the only other good animated show on TV. But what I really like about it is that, because it shows up in, I think it's called like Brother from Another Planet or something. It's the Big Brother episode.
Yeah.
And
I didn't remember where it was, but...
Yeah, and it's like Bart gets this cooler, like big brother that hangs out with him and his father figure, and they go back to his house and they watch Ren and Stimpy. And what I've always liked about that is that he's like a wealthier person than the Simpsons are, so it's like he gets to watch like this actual like big TV show at his house, but then at the Simpsons household they can't afford stuff like that, so they have to watch like the like crappy like in town TV show.
Yeah, I never think about it like that, because in my head, Krusty is like nationwide, And there's episodes where
it's
he's
so like back and forth.
There's episodes where he's super rich, so
Yeah.
they kind of lead you to
especially
believe that.
Itchy and Scratchy, like it goes back and forth so much where it's like sometimes the Itchy and Scratchy people are like way bigger than Krusty, and then that'll flip here and there. It's definitely not consistent.
Yeah, because in Krusty Gets Canceled, you find out that Itchy and Scratchy is like an affiliate thing where you have to pay to get those cartoons, which is how that was done very often when you had a variety show. And then the other guy with the puppet who gets Krusty's show canceled, who gets his show canceled, gets his hands on the rights for Itchy and Scratchy. So that suggests that Itchy and Scratchy are national. And to quote Michael Keaton from The Founder, Krusty is effing local.
Yeah, it depends on the episode.
So, do you know the story, or maybe it was just a funny gag, for why they have the rights to use Ren and Stimpy in one episode,
and then you have, like,
but then
missing...
toward the end, I think it's that same episode, right? It's Krusty Gets Canceled, where there's or is it not?
No, so
I thought it was
the
right at
first
the
one
end.
the first one was in that brother episode. The other one is in the front.
Okay, I knew it was toward the end of the season, but I forgot which episode. Like I said,
which I was about to explain. It's
okay.
The reason for that. No, it's okay. The reason for that is John Kay, the guy who made Ren and Stimpy, was like notorious for like never wanting like any similar facial reactions and stuff like that in animation. So he was like a real hound dog on the animators. So the joke is that it's not finished yet because he's still trying to get like the perfect look.
Okay, that's really funny.
Mm-hmm.
There's stuff like that that certainly went over my head.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a crying game joke that I got this time around because we did that on request.
I know, I had that thought. I was like, well, thank God for the request. I understood that reference. This has been a little bit of a running theme for us through the series that we make so often. But I want to keep kind of checking back in with it. Why does this show, and particularly this season so far of the 4 that we've watched, why does it hold up so well when there's so much timely humor in it? And how much of it did you have to be there for? Because you're younger than I am, and there's a lot of references to things both happening right then and stuff from years and decades earlier that you weren't around for or didn't grow up with parents that were there and they were passing it down to you, and yet this is your favorite show and a lot of those references you get. Now, I know you go back and you look at all kinds of old entertainment, so maybe you're in a minority of people in your generation that get more of this show than a lot of people would, but it's still popular and a lot of people your age still go back and watch it. So like, why is it so timeless?
So I think there's 3 reasons. I think one, they pick just kind of old classic stuff to make fun of a lot of the time, where it's like, yeah, even if you haven't seen it, you know what Casablanca is, stuff like that.
Psycho, they go back to a lot.
Psycho, exactly. 2, they went to like recent stuff, and a lot of the times it just happened to be stuff that we remember. Like they did the Indiana Jones parody, I think, last season. And I mean, that's, like 5 years old at this point, something like that.
I was going to ask you what episode that was
like
from,
still...
because I didn't remember that.
Mm-hmm.
The Indiana Jones parody? Where is that?
I can't remember exactly what episode it is.
It must be season 3.
That's one of those ones where it's like I remember that intro, but it's like divorced from the episode.
Yeah, like Jason was just losing his mind at that when we watched the clip show together.
I think that won my best cultural reference last season, I think.
Oh, maybe it did. I don't remember. But yeah, like Homer is the boulder? Like, that's killer.
Oh, no, it's so good. And then he's the natives at the end where he's screaming with his stick.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah, I'll say with the clip show, there were a couple of scenes that I was like really happy to see again. That just reminded me about how good some of those episodes were. But you know, obviously it's a real cheap thing to do, and like they make fun of the fact that they're doing a clip show a couple times, but not enough for my taste. Like I think if you're gonna do that with a show like this, you've got to kind of set it up from the beginning and make the whole thing about the fact that you're cheating. And that might be difficult to do and not go too meta with it, but I was kind of surprised by how late it was in the episode before somebody finally made a jab at like having a dream and then remembering things from previous episodes, which is what, by the way, the episode Shades of Grey from TNG Season 2 does. It's exactly that. It's like Riker goes in a coma and he remembers a bunch of crap that happens in the first 2 seasons.
Well, don't worry, there will be worse and better clip shows.
How often does it happen?
I don't know if it's exactly like once per season, but there's at least like 4, I think.
Oh wow!
Off the top of my head, that
I had no idea they did it that often.
The best one for me has always been the 138th episode spectacular, where
I forgot about that.
Because it's all just like deleted footage, where it's like, oh, remember, you know, when Homer jumped the gorge? Here's like all the footage that we had for that we couldn't show you. And then they just play like an extended version of that sequence.
Oh,
and,
really?
Like, that's pretty fun.
Maybe
yeah.
I misread it because I read something that suggested that this clip show episode added something to that scene, and I was like, no, it was all there.
Yeah, unless I'm mixing it up, because I'm pretty sure it's in that episode. Because that's one of those things where I have a hard time going back to the actual gorge jump, because I'm so used to the full version of it that I'm like, oh, this is like missing shots. It's really weird in my head.
I'll see if I can find what I read about that, because I was confused about it. Yeah, so this is on Wiki, take this with a grain of salt. Despite the nature of the clip show, the episode still contained an act and a half of new animation, including the extra scene from Bart the Daredevil, in which Homer falls down Springfield Gorge a second time after the ambulance crashes in a tree. But that happens in that episode. Unless they went back and added that footage on Disney+.
No, so what happens is you see him fall the first time.
Yeah.
And then the second time he falls, but it's just like a wide shot of the gorge. There's like a full version where you're like following him fall a second time.
Oh, is that
so
what
maybe
it is?
it's in this and I'm so like mixed up on it. But yeah, there's like a whole thing with that. Because there's a great part where in the first fall, he hits a rock that breaks off, and then in the second fall, he just hits the space where that rock was. Like as if there's a rock there.
That's hilarious. I didn't remember that the first time around you didn't actually see him fall, but now that you say that, I'm remembering it.
Well, it's the second time. The second time you just see it as
no,
like
that's
a
not
wide
what I meant.
shot.
When I said I meant in the episode.
Oh,
like,
okay, yeah, I got
in that original episode, yeah.
Yeah, no, I know it messes with me every time I rewatch it. I'm like, where's this footage?
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, my favorite example of a parody of the clip show thing is in Powerpuff Girls, where they do an episode where they're just sitting in a closet remembering stuff, and it has one of my favorite Bubbles lines where she's like, because they're all just like bringing up things they remember, and then at one point she goes, "Remember when we were sitting in a closet remembering stuff?" And in that, and I kind of expected Simpsons to do something similar to this. In obviously this predates that, but in the Powerpuff Girls one, they do a long flashback from an actual episode, and then the joke is everything thereafter is more and more absurd, ridiculous things that never happened to the show, but they're pretending like they're flashbacks, and that's kind of what I thought this was gonna do.
That's what Community does. I think it's season 3 of Community does a clip show, and it's all just new footage. And it's like, remember like these wacky adventures we went on? Like we were at a ranch that one time. It's like, that wasn't an episode. Yeah, that would have been fun if this show did it.
So what else, more broadly, do you want to bring up? What major points do you want to make before we start going down our list?
So I think the big thing for me this season that I really picked up on while rewatching it is just like how much more Homer focused it is than the last three seasons. Like the kids get stuff to do, but it's they get a lot more B plots than what was there before. And when they do get A plots, Homer always gets a B plot. It's like there's like he has a presence through every episode in a way that I don't think he did before. And I think that's really interesting that we finally, because people always talk about that, how it starts as a Bart show and becomes the Homer show, and we fully crossed through that.
Yeah, and it's not a thing that I've ever noticed until you brought it up. We were talking off camera about that, and I think it's because when I was a kid, I always watched these like totally out of order. So in my head, like it was always kind of Homer show. It's weird, right? Like when you're watching the show, it's Homer show, but when you're looking at merchandising, it's Bart's show.
Yeah.
And so if you never watch the show, you just assume that Bart has all the A stories. If you're just looking at the way The Simpsons permeates pop culture, wouldn't you think? You would figure every episode was like Bart, like swearing in front of his parents and getting in trouble, and like all the plots were around that. You think every episode is Bart is rolling on his skateboard naked like that, like the season 3 episode, is it 3? That like that would be every episode, but it isn't like that.
Yeah, well, so it's when you watch the show, you realize it's the Homer show. When you see the merchandise, it's the Bart show. When you're looking at the most like emotional moments, it's probably the Lisa show. And when you're looking at the funniest episodes, it's the Marge show for some reason.
Which I also didn't notice until you brought it up, I guess 2 years ago now. And
it's something I've just noticed while rewatching.
And I don't.
Like, a lot of my favorite episodes are Marge episodes.
I had that this season. Yeah, I don't understand that because I always think of her as, at least like comedy wise, the weakest character because she's like the straight man.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not a
exactly.
weak character, but I don't come to the show for her. I also don't want to play as her in the arcade game because she just has a vacuum cleaner, and that's lame.
Well, and while we're at Marge, the biggest difference with her this season is that she's less critical of Homer's shenanigans and like more willing to kind of look past it and like enjoy what he's doing. And she's very horny this season.
Yeah. That's a thing I noticed. And that starts all the way at Camp Krusty, which again is a holdover from the previous season, where they all go off to camp, and she and Homer are really happy not to have their kids around, and suddenly Homer is like getting in better shape and like enjoying life more and kind of like I guess I can't say being more responsible, but just like being a better husband for his wife. And they get really sexual with that, and then they keep going with that through the season, even though that was a thing from the end of the season. Also, Camp Krusty watches like a season finale, partly because school just let out. So we opened the season with school lets out.
And that's not even the the only episode we'll have like soon that has that, because there's one in season 6 as well.
Where school lets out at the beginning of the season?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. To your point about Marge being more relaxed about Homer's shenanigans through the season, I'm really glad you brought that up because this was a huge point I wanted to make, which is that is true, except for the other holdover episode from last season that doesn't seem to match the rest of it at all, which is Streetcar Named Marge, where simultaneously Marge is way harder on Homer, and Homer is way dumber and way less responsible and way just more of a jerk than he is the whole rest of the season.
Oh, yeah, good call. Absolutely. That's absolutely the case.
Like, it doesn't match up when you have that, things like that, and then you have like Duffless, where he wrecks his car, gets arrested, And when he comes back home, he's lying in bed with his wife, and she just like kind of politely suggests maybe he's drinking too much. Like the Marge from Streetcar Named Marge would be like, "I'm gonna leave you if you don't stop drinking," and she doesn't do that.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Well, and I'm trying to remember if it was the last season. I think it was last season. There's like 4 marital crisis episodes between Homer and Marge. Like, oh, maybe they'll split up. There's none in this season. Like the closest you get is that streetcar one, and it's just I'm mad at you. It's not even like we might break up.
Yeah, we'll get to the categories. I listed a couple of episodes that I kind of cheated in fitting that, where like they should be marital stress episodes, but they're not. You know what I mean? We're like it's marital problems in the sense that, I mean, they might go broke or somebody might die, but not marital problems in the sense that they're not getting along. Because you're right, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, there is no Marge kicking out Homer this season. And there's seasons where that happens more than once.
Really,
it's crazy.
Really, Duffless is the closest you get, and that's only because Homer makes the right decision at the end, so you don't actually know how she would react.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and that's true too.
Or like you get the beginning
get
of her reaction because he goes, "Okay, my 30 days are up." I like that episode quite a bit.
It's a good one.
My 30 days are up.
It's one I always forget about, and then I watch it, and it's like this is fun. I like this.
Yeah, I found myself, you know, because we always have to pick a kind of MVP character and a like best, you know, guest character or whatever. And we were talking a lot in the first 3 seasons about characters that kind of take over the whole season, and it doesn't. And you kind of made this point earlier. There's a good mix of like supporting and guest characters all through the season, so you don't have the thing that you have in second season with Burns, where he kind of they love him so much he just keeps showing up and he kind of takes over the season. The closest you get to that in 4 is Duff the Company.
Well, I have an answer for that for my MVP that I think is a cheat, but yeah, no, Duff shows up a ton.
Well, I think within VP, like that can also be a main character, right?
Yeah, no, it's just whatever character you think does it best. Because I think I gave it to Marge one season.
Okay, well, it's been a couple of years, so I was just trying to remember.
100% Burns, because Burns is like in every episode.
Yeah, and was it 3 that had a like a crazy amount of Krusty?
Yeah.
I feel like 1 was all Burns and 1 was all Krusty.
Yeah.
And this season doesn't have that.
Yeah, I think there's quite a bit of Krusty compared to like other characters, but there's no real like this guest character keeps coming up. Although
I would argue that you don't have any more Krusty than you do Burns this season.
No, that is probably true.
Maybe you just felt that way because we bookend with Krusty, which is cool.
That's probably it.
But it was kind of a nice happy accident for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Although this season does introduce a new character that it instantly loves that shows up like 6 times, which is the Sea Captain.
The Sea Captain, that is true. And his and he still has his restaurant when he comes back.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think you can go to that restaurant in Hit and Run, if I remember correctly.
Oh, really?
I think so.
I still gotta play that.
Oh, it's great.
I did get maybe I talked about this 2 years ago. I did get the Crazy Taxi knockoff that they made, and it's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never played that one, but I remember you telling me, and I think Jason told me you really liked it once.
Well, he and I are both big Crazy Taxi fans, so we were right at home with that, and I've never played what's it called? The game the Hit and Run is based on
Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not stupid. I know what Grand Theft Auto is. I just couldn't come up with it in my brain. Darren Root, Homer versus the Sandwich. That is the grossest thing. I'm glad this show doesn't do too much of that, because occasionally I can appreciate a joke that gross, but that's Bob's Burgers is like that joke, the show, and I like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I can't watch that. Or at least the pilot was like that. That's why I didn't keep watching it. I'm sorry, what?
I love when he's holding the sandwich and he's like, Marge, I need you to leave me alone with the sandwich. Why are you gonna eat it? Yes.
Are you gonna eat it? Well, I love the way that's set up, because she's like, "You're not still eating that sandwich, are you?" And then, you know, you're in the dark as the audience member, but you just know where it's going. That's horrible. Okay, well, do you want to go ahead and go through categories?
Yeah, absolutely.
I am just pulling my notes up here. Okay, so Austin wrote like 7 or 8 categories for our previous shows, and so I did my best to do my homework and insert episodes that kind of fit some of these. But I also added a couple at the end, and if you like them, Austin, we'll add them and keep using them for future seasons. But I didn't think of them until like an hour before the show, so that's why.
Yeah, depending on what they are, I can see if I can just spitball an answer for them too.
Yeah, well, I did put things down for them myself, but okay. So here we go. Oh, real quick, sorry. Before we do that, I wanted to mention. So I just had a couple of kind of broader notes, and minor criticisms. One is with regards to kind of running gags. The show still thinks depicting Homer as an ape is hilarious. And I don't. And so, like, that never lands with me. And a lot of people love the King Kong thing in Treehouse 3. And, like, it's fine. And the way they, you know, recreate those scenes and camera angles and stuff, I guess, is neat. But, like, that is a gag. Doesn't do anything for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like that episode. I'm interested to see what you think of now that you say that. Like 20 seasons from now, they do a Godzilla one, and I'm excited to see how you feel about that one, because it's like they do the same thing, where it's like they recreate shots from the original film, but also it becomes a commentary on reboot culture. Oh,
interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, I might like that better. I don't mind giant Homer. My issue is just like the idea that Homer's so dumb, he's like an ape, and you know, like he and Marge, you know, actually get married in that, like suggesting that he's too much like King Kong. And they had that episode where he's mistaken. Remember, I think it was like in second season.
It's first season. Where he's mistaken for Bigfoot. Yeah.
Yeah, and they do that whole gag, and that was one of the weakest episodes of that season, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one I always think of with season 1, and then when we rewatched it, I was like, this is okay. It's not great. They
just think that's so funny, and I just don't appreciate it. But one thing I really appreciated through this season, speaking of running gags, is just how often. And I'll bring up a couple later, how often a joke would come up in one episode and then be referred to again later, and it felt like just really nice continuity. It didn't feel, usually anyway, it didn't feel like the show like repeating itself too much or relying on a joke that had worked before, and so they're running it into the ground. It felt really sophisticated, where it would be like, you're not going to think we remembered that we did this, but here it is. And I loved like all those callbacks. And like occasionally they would go back to something they did in a previous season, but a lot of it was within the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there definitely had to have been a lot of that, like working everything out in tandem, even just with guest star stuff, because there's clearly like, we brought this person in for this episode, and then they'll make a cameo in another episode, and that was obviously done in one recording session.
Right. Yeah, Elizabeth Taylor?
Yeah, Elizabeth Taylor's one of them. Barry White is another one that I'm guessing is like that.
Yeah, because he comes back at the end. And the only reason he's in that episode, by the way, is because he just really wanted to be on the show, and they needed to pad that episode out, so they put him in there.
Oh, that's funny. That's a really funny cameo.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That was really funny. And that is a weird episode. That's the one with the snakes, right? Whacking
Yeah,
Day.
back in day, which I maybe inspired a Weird Al song. I don't know.
Oh, maybe so. Weasel Stomping Day.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
I've always wondered that.
Is
But
that
I
the
don't
one
know.
question you'll ask Weird Al if you ever meet him?
Yeah, when I get to heaven, that's the one question I'll ask Weird Al.
I'm sorry, but that's kind of a waste. Like, I feel like there's better, better questions you can ask. For the longest time, I wanted to ask
Actually,
Weird Al.
he won't remember.
Sorry, what?
Said I'll ask him and he won't remember.
He won't be
My
able to
one
tell you.
question wasted.
You'll be like, I
Yeah.
came all this way. Yeah, I always
I
wanted to.
arrive here.
I always wanted to ask Weird Al if Everything You Know Is Wrong was actually a Team BG pastiche, and then finally I read an interview where he brought it up, and I was like, oh good, I never have to ask him this question. Austin sneezing. Austin's almost sneezing.
It was about to happen. I was like, no, no, it passed. I hate when that happens. But I got the first one.
Another thing, so a joke that I think that we do rely on way too much, and you may not agree with me on this, and I know this is like a huge staple for the series moving forward, but like Homer hearing something that sounds like food, or hearing someone say the name of a food and going, donuts, or whatever it is. Oh, yeah, and that a little too often comes up a little too much. Starting to feel like an
That's
SNL
fair.
catchphrase.
I mean, that's fair. I like it, but I can understand why you feel that way.
Well, that's why I said
I
I
also
didn't-
just do that a lot, so
That's why I didn't think you'd agree with me, because you do it all the time.
I did it before we got on the show. We went for ice cream, and my uncle was like, "There's donuts right there," and I was like, "Donuts." Oh.
And then you got weird running gags that you wouldn't think would come back, but there's a whole like running thing about how Jimmy Carter was maybe a bad president.
So
Comes up
I
3, 4,
love
5 times.
I love that because I don't know anything about Jimmy Carter, but every time Jimmy Carter comes up, I go, he's history's greatest monster.
And then I wanted to.
Oh, also,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
there is no, just to piggyback off of that.
Yeah.
Seeds of Futurama here, and how many times they reference Nixon, right?
Yes, I said that to Jason while we were watching. I forget which episode it was, but yeah, with Nixon, and then Monorail had flashes of it to me. Maybe just because Nimoy was there, but like there are a few episodes where I was thinking Futurama pretty hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think Nixon shows up in at least 2 episodes. He's in the weasel stomping, the snake whacking day episode.
Well, and they're already starting to do like the disembodied head thing, because there's that quick shot of Hitler's head in a factory.
Well, there's one episode I think where we go to the future and they just have like exactly the Futurama head thing.
Really?
Before that show, I think so.
Yeah, there was some aspect of this where I was like, they're starting to set up kind of Futurama jokes, and then that show will really take these things and run with it, but I can't remember what it was. I did have that with The Critic, and like you mentioned earlier, and I've seen that show and you haven't. That show, or I don't think you've ever seen that show.
I haven't. I just know the big thing I always hear is it's very like pop culture heavy and like making fun of like things that were like happening in entertainment in the moment.
Doesn't hold up the way
Especially
this
Arnold
does.
Schwarzenegger, which is a big thing this show does too.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they like to make fun of sequel culture. There's a lot of like whatever Part 19, and they go to Jurassic Park a lot. But yeah, I just bring that up to say, like Austin mentioned earlier, the main guys working on the show leave to make that show, and you can see some seeds of it, particularly anytime we'll cut to like TV shows and movies, and like the McBain thing is very the critic.
And I was trying to think about it. We might have be done with the McBain movie thing because there's like the in-show, like you can take all the clips and put it together to make like a little short film that all tracks.
Oh, crazy! I didn't know that.
I think we're done with it now, but I can't remember if there's any in 5 or 6. But I feel we're done with that.
Yeah, speaking of keeping up with continuity and things, we had talked in previous episodes all those years ago about how there were some like big story staples that hadn't come in yet. Things like Ralph being Chief Wiggum's son, and we finally get the episode that establishes that here. But what I was surprised to find was that he gets his last name in the first episode of the season, and then we don't actually see him as Wiggum's son until way later.
Well, in that episode,
in I Love Lucy, or Lisa. It's so hard to say that.
Yeah, it's in I Love Lisa, which I think is what cements Ralph as a character, but we'll also never fully go back to it because we'll never be able to let Ralph win in the same way he does in that episode.
Yeah, does he ever show any of that kind of like latent sophistication or like acting ability or anything again?
No,
because that was cool.
He will get another spotlight episode, and it will be an episode that knows that you can't buy that Ralph can accomplish anything, so it won't try to go that far.
So do you think they went too far in that, or did you like that they went there?
No, I like it. Part of me wishes that some of that stuck around, but I also think Ralph is funny, so it doesn't kill it for me that he never does. But I don't know, I like that there's like that aspect in there.
Just put him in one or two more situations somewhere where he does that again, like, because that is a pretty specific kind of situation. Unless the problem with it is, okay, but then wouldn't he just pursue acting, and then you'd see that he was good at something? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I could see it like moving forward, like maybe there just wasn't any joke potential in that. Like, I know we will hit a point where Barney gets sober, and then they realize, okay, but we took away his one joke, and now he has nothing. So I don't know what to do with that character.
So did they make him sober, and they were going to keep him that way?
Yeah, well, he's sober for like several seasons.
I didn't know that. How far in is it when that happens?
Well, it's like at the end of the classic. I think it's 8 or 9. And then he's sober until 15.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Because I've mostly only seen things from like the first 10, maybe 12.
Yeah, maybe it's 10 that where they sober him up. I'm so bad at like being like, this is the episode, or this episode's in this season.
But I'm really curious to see how they handle that, like what that looks like when they get there. Because I've been surprised by just how much seeding they've been doing about how he is, and you don't want to do this with too many of your kind of dumb stupid characters, which might be why they didn't keep doing it with Ralph. But the seeding they're doing about Barney like secretly being kind of an intellectual, and he would have probably gotten like a doctorate in college if only he hadn't found alcohol.
Yeah, it ruined his life. Yeah, and we will continue to have jokes about that, where like you sober him up and he is a smart person.
Smart and talented, because you also get that in the Barbershop Quartet episode.
Oh yeah,
in the next season, and that's why the flashback episode here I was surprised by, because I was like, oh, they've already kind of established some things about his personality that make that more believable.
Well, in next season we'll get that, and him being a better astronaut candidate than Homer.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Is that the chip eating episode?
Yep.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
The episode that should be a jumping the shark moment, but it's just so good that it's not.
Yeah, and of course that's a classic. I'm
exactly.
looking back through these episodes and trying to remember which ones I saw the most when I was a kid. Because, like I said, I watched this show when I was in like junior high and early high school a lot, and I just watched whatever was on TV, and there were certain episodes that they showed more often than others. And even though 4 is really good, I feel like I saw fewer of these than some of the other seasons, maybe. Like, I know Mr. Plow came up. Would you believe that Monorail I had never seen until
that's crazy.
now? Well, I mean, we were preparing for this a few months ago, and then we ended up not doing it, so I watched it then. But I'd never seen it before we were doing this series, and I knew the song because and by the way, I meant to mention this at the beginning of the show. The Jeff was supposed to be here with us tonight, like he was with season 3. He started preparing for this, and then he had to go out of town this weekend, and he wasn't able to make it. So hopefully we can have him on a future episode. He was really bummed that he couldn't be here. He loved doing that show with us last time, and he missed the show, and he loves having an excuse to go back and watch it. But he had a tape of Simpsons music that they released that had the Monorail song on it. So I had heard that, and that's also the only reason I knew Dr. Zayas, because I hadn't seen that episode.
And that's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, but the Monorail thing is on that tape.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of surreal finally seeing the context of it. Like, I could tell it was a Music Man parody, but I never actually seen the episode.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What was I gonna say with that? See, I got so thrown because now I got Dr. Zayas in my head.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
And I think Streetcar was also on that tape, and I did see that episode maybe once. But yeah, a lot of these I didn't remember.
Yeah.
Camp Krusty, I think I saw like 900 times, though. That did come up a lot.
I feel like that probably gets played a lot in the summer. Like, I think I had a Christmas Simpsons DVD that had Mr. Plow on it. I think. Because it was like really stretching on some of them.
He's like, oh, snow.
Yeah, genuinely.
Why don't we go ahead and start getting to categories? We're about an hour in. Are you good, or do you want to take a quick break?
I'm good, if you are.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Yeah, this is going long enough, and the others did too. But you know what? It's been 2 years. We might as well take our time. We may take a break here in about 15 or 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and start looking at categories. And we begin with marital crisis, and you suggested that the Streetcar Named Marge was really the only one.
Yeah, it's the closest offhand, but even then I wouldn't count it.
You still wouldn't count that? You still wouldn't call that a marital crisis?
No, because like they're fighting, but it's not like oh my god, like our relationship is falling apart moment. It's just like they're having a disagreement.
Well, see, I don't know the show well enough to know like just how often they almost get a divorce, because if it has to be that extreme, yes, nothing gets close to that.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of episodes like that.
Okay, and we had some last season.
Mm-hmm. I think we've had maybe it's just 2 and 3. I don't. No, there's definitely marriage crisis episodes in season 1, so it's been all 3 of the first seasons, and then nothing in this one. But I'm pretty sure we get them next season.
Because besides Duffless, I feel like the only other episode that gets anywhere close is Homer the Heretic, and that's just because she's really angry with him for not going to church.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, the version of Marge in Streetcar Named Marge would be a lot closer to kicking him out of the house over it, because he's sort of like
kind of frustrated.
Yeah. He like refuses to go to church and set that example for his kids, and everybody thinks he's like a blasphemer or whatever, and you'd think she wouldn't put up with that.
Mm-hmm. but little does she know who wears short shorts.
I think in some ways that is the most relatable episode of the season.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's a day that goes by where I haven't sat back and gone, everyone is stupid except for me.
Then you have protest episodes, and there's really only 2 that I found.
Oh, okay, I didn't put any because I was like, I don't know if I can say any of these are, but
Well, Lisa is most certainly protesting the snake whacking in Whacking
oh,
Day.
good call.
That is most
I
certainly
don't
a
know why I
protest
didn't
episode.
Think of that, yeah.
And
No, you are.
yeah, and then Marge tries to protest the monorail. It's almost a protest episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like kind of. But Marge ain't protesting the Whacking Day though. She's really into that.
There are no well, and then okay, I just thought of this. This is a stretch, but you could almost put Lisa the beauty queen there. Right?
Yeah, you can make an argument for it now that you say that.
But really,
actually, that probably counts.
Yeah, it probably counts. But really, if Lisa is a main character in an episode, she's likely protesting something.
Yeah, she's likely angry about something. I think that's also the only episode we get this season that's like a Homer and Lisa focused episode, because last season really clung on to that.
A lot of father-daughter stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought
and this one has a lot more father-son episodes. Yes. Or like most of Bart's storylines relate to Homer in some way.
There's not even as much Bart-Lisa stuff. There's a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not as much as you'd expect, or like in other seasons have done.
Like particularly when they start writing Krusty episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get...
Yeah, that's a big one.
Well, we could almost... I'm not going to do it right now, but you could almost make those separate categories. The episodes where Bart and Lisa are allies, and the episodes where they're enemies.
That's actually a good call. That we could put that as a category.
And you have both of those this season. Because
mm-hmm.
the episode where they're doing the science fair...
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is them versing.
They're enemies in that episode, but then they team up maybe a couple times, or is it just the ones?
They team up in the front. Oh, another versus one would technically be Lisa's first word. It's maybe cheating, but obviously that's a big part.
Like when he's 2 years old.
Yeah, when he's like cutting her hair.
Well,
off
and then they come together at the end, and
then, yeah.
The thing I really appreciated about that was getting a relatively sophisticated origin for why Bart and Lisa, even though they have a dysfunctional relationship like everybody in that family, why they actually get along much of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, and there's going to be a really good. Oh no, it's not next season. It's season 6. But there's a really good sports episode that's them versing each other in hockey. That like breaks down the relationship.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen that.
My one brother is like a big hockey player, and every time I'm like, "You want to watch The Simpsons?" he always makes me watch that episode.
We didn't have any sports this season.
No, nothing. As a big fat goose egg, there's normally at least something every season. But...
Yeah, and we didn't even really deal with sports a lot, even with jokes and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Although the best one is in Duffless when they go to the baseball game and Homer can't drink and he's like, "This game's really boring."
I forgot about that. We also don't have any. Well, I guess we have one vacation episode with Camp Krusty.
Yeah, I put Camp Krusty as that. That's the closest you get with it. It's like it's a stretch, but like. I mean, it is them going to a new location.
Yeah, it's not the whole family, but
mm-hmm.
it's a couple of them.
Yeah, and you'll see that sometimes where not everyone goes on whatever trip they go to.
And then you have Kids Helping Krusty episodes, which it bookends with, and there's nothing in the middle. It's just the first and last episodes. And in fact, I don't even know that Camp Krusty is them helping Krusty so much as.
Yeah, I contemplated it, and then I went, "Wait a minute, no, it's more like the Krusty screws the kids over."
He screws them, and then he saves the day by taking them to Tijuana at the end.
Yeah, so I only put not Camp Krusty. Krusty gets canceled on that one.
No, you are right. I am incorrect on that. I don't want to fall into the trap of just writing down anything that has Krusty in the title. Although now I just want to call him Crunchy.
I like that it's canceled with a K, like Mortal Kombat.
Yep. And Camp Krusty is also with a K.
Mm-hmm. Oh, true. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. So they do it every time. It's Mortal Kombat. Yep. It bookends with Mortal Kombat titles. So past future episodes, I only wrote down a couple, but I know there's more, and I forgot them, I guess, when I was putting this together, because you have the big flashback episode with Lisa's first word, and then you have the jumping to the future with Bart as a court justice in Itchy and Scratchy the movie. And I feel like there's another couple episodes with flashbacks that I'm not thinking of right now.
Yeah, definitely. So I only put Lisa's first word as just being like a big flashback episode, but you're right. I probably should have at least counted the Itchy and Scratchy movie because of that.
I feel like that's a big enough part of that episode.
Now that you say that, I agree.
But it's not the whole episode or anything.
Yeah. Well, and they get to go and eat at Soylent Green.
What I feel like there's another episode where we flash back maybe a couple of times to like younger Homer or something.
Oh, is it Deathless? There's like that whole part where you get like he sings the song about his first beer. Is it maybe that?
No. Do they do it in? Well, this is not going to be interesting entertainment, so we'll move on. But
yeah, I'm looking through every episode on the season, and I can't think of one.
Do they? One, but this is minor enough it probably shouldn't count. I can't remember if they do any actual flashbacks in the episode where Homer and Marge go to their high school reunion, but they do real quick jump to 2024 in the final scene.
Oh yeah, and he's got the plunger.
He's got the plunger on his head. Yeah, that was a weird way to book in that episode.
That's another thing that this show and Futurama really love to make fun of is like the college movie stereotypes.
Oh yeah.
Dongalinger.
Maybe somebody will bring up something. Darren Root, what about Duff Garden? What about it? Is there flashback stuff there?
Not that I'm remembering offhand, but that's the episode. That's the Selma episode where you get like Marge's aunt dies.
Yeah.
Oh, there's probably a flashback to like them to Marge as a kid. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Is there? I don't think there is any flashback stuff in that episode. But interestingly, that actress voices 5 characters in a single scene in that episode.
Oh yeah, yeah. Jessica Kavanaugh's crazy, and now her Marge voice just sounds like someone Patty because she's a lot older now, and it's kind of sad.
I was gonna say it sounds more like her mom, but that's probably not fair. That's probably.
Mm-hmm.
So like we said, no sports episodes, secondary Homer jobs, but I felt the need to expand this to also Marge because she gets. Maybe not as many as Homer, but they happen somewhat frequently. Like I'm remembering, you'll be able to tell me what season it is. I'm remembering the episode where she becomes a cop.
That's season 6.
And
that's a great episode.
Yeah. You have the right to remain silent. I choose to waive that, right? I love that episode. But anyway, So I added Marge to that, if that's okay with you, and
Yeah, definitely.
Marge gets a job. Of course, it's right in the title, and then Mr.
Which is like the
Plow.
big Burns episode
What's that?
this season, which is probably like the biggest Burns thing in this episode in the season, is that episode.
Yes. Pretty typical for Burns. Is that the episode though that has that great bit where, where Burns says, "Who is that?" with Homer, and Smithers finally is like, "How do you not know who Homer Simpson is?" and rattles off like every major encounter they've had.
Possibly, because I said that's like the biggest one, but then I remembered right after, oh, there's like the big Homer versus Mr. Burns episode, so maybe it's in that, and it's just bleeding together.
Yeah, I forget which episode has that, but that speech is amazing. Where he's like, and you painted his wife in the nude, sir.
Speaking of Mr. Burns, my favorite Burns thing in the season, just for like jokes, and I think it's because I love the bit in season 2 when Homer tries to get the letter that he mails to Burns, and he tries to like pretend to be him. I love that bit when Burns opens up his like secure room to get away from the Osaka flu, and Homer's there, and he's like, "Who are you?" I'm Mr. Burns.
Yeah, and then it just cuts. Like I thought there would be some kind of consequence to that, and they just cut from it. But anyway, other Homer or Marge getting jobs episodes: Mr. Plow.
Mr. Plow, yeah, that's what I have.
And Monorail.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because he becomes the monorail conductor. I love that bit.
Best mono thingy there ever was.
I love that moment where he goes, "I'm going to become a monorail conductor," and Marge just says, "Homer, no."
True or false? You can get mono from riding the monorail. True. Wait, no,
true.
False. No, it's the other way around. I think he says false. Wait, no, true.
And then the only side character spotlights I found were Selma's Choice, and I want to also kind of give it to I Love Lisa with Ralph.
I put that on there because of Ralph, and also Krusty gets canceled. I put for Krusty.
That's true. Yeah, he's featured enough in that and has something of an arc.
Yeah, because the family's still very much involved with both of those, but it's still their story at the end of the day, and like they have to do the big thing by the end.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Lisa and Ralph is almost a dual protagonist story, if you want to put it in traditional storytelling terms. But that last Krusty episode, I don't think there's really a character that gets an arc apart from Krusty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly.
And then we get into... Okay, so you had a category that was... Or is that it? Is that everything you had?
So that is all of the episode formula ones, and then after that it's, like funniest moments, stuff like that. It's those categories.
Okay, so because I just ran this together with the other ones I added, but I'll tell you the couple extras that I added.
Yeah.
Lisa or Bart bonding with Homer.
Yeah, and that should have been there from the beginning.
I think so. So you have Lisa the Beauty Queen and Brother from the Same Planet. So you get one for Lisa and one for Bart.
We should also add kids bonding with Marge, because we'll get that, especially moving forward.
Okay, we can just make that all the same category, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then let me not forget the other categories we were talking about putting in, because I can't remember now. There was something else that we said we needed to make sure and add.
The Bart versus Lisa / Lisa is friends with Bart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Allies.
We're very professional.
We're just going to plan it all on the flight. Look, we need to make sure that we have it all in our notes, because it's going to be 2 years before we talk about this again. No, I'm kidding. It won't. It won't. We promise. It won't. Okay, so then I have... we don't have to use this one. I don't know if it comes up often enough, but I feel like every season.
Hey, it might be the wall of weird for The Simpsons, where one of us thinks it doesn't come up much, but then it turns out it does.
It's like 38 times. Wall of Weird was like the third most appearing category in the first season when we did that.
And Darren Root says you should probably. We didn't. I'm paraphrasing, but add Grandpa to the kids bonding with. That's probably a good call too.
Okay, this is becoming a very convoluted category now. So I wrote. I feel like there's been at least one of these a season. Coming of age for Bart or Lisa.
Oh yeah.
Because
no, you're absolutely right.
Because I saw New Kid on the Block and I went, there is something very familiar about the formula of this episode. We do this every so often, and I was trying to figure out. I was struggling to figure out what I was recognizing in it, and it's that the kids got to grow up sometimes on about a particular topic, right? Where like he's realizing like the girl's too old for him, and he's gotta wait until he's older. And I was like, we do episodes like that every so often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with Bart's love life.
You know, that was one I saw a lot when I was a kid because the I'll never wash my hand again thing was burned into the back of my cranium. That is gross.
That's so good. I love that episode.
And the last one I added was a main character gets famous or infamous or goes on TV.
Yep, that's a good one too.
And in this season, you have The Front and you have Marge and Chains.
Yeah, but next season we'll specifically get Bart Gets Famous. So it's basically the name in that category.
Oh, really? There's an episode called that?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to go ahead and take, if you don't mind, just like a 4-minute break. Break this up a little bit, because this is probably going to be another 3-hour show since we've got to watch an episode at the end. So I hope everybody is enjoying it. Austin, I hope you're good to stick around for a bit.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'm just making sure. But the nice thing is we started early.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
That was necessary. Anyway, guys, we'll see you in just a couple of minutes. Okay, I'm not sure if Austin's waiting for me or if he's still taking a break, but I'll go ahead and pop back in and say thanks a lot for being here with us, folks. Austin, were you waiting for him?
No, I'm good.
Okay, we're gonna get back to categories now, and or rather, so we went through all of our like theme categories, and now we're going to go through kind of awards for the season, our favorite things, and in a couple of cases, not as favorite things. So we're gonna start with funniest moment of the season, and actually, Austin, I added a couple of things with this that I thought of later also, and
Okay.
feel free to add those on your side too in the future. We'll decide if we like them, but there were just a couple of things that I thought of later on. But we'll go in more or less the order that we had these initially. So funniest moment of the season, we'll just start straight away with one of the big important ones. And this was hard, and I probably wrote down, I don't know, 20 things before I picked something.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, I was like, okay, funniest visual moment, and then just like nailed it off on one spot. I'm like, this is it. Wrote it down.
Okay, do you want to rattle off any runners-up before we name them, or should we just name them and then talk about extra stuff?
So the runner-up I put was just the climax of Homer the Heretic, where Flanders is trying to pull Homer out of the fire. And you get like that moment when he pushes him out the window and he bounces off the mattress and back into the building. It's so good.
Yeah, and I guess this was supposed to be visual moments. I wrote down a lot of things that were kind of lines, but in a context. You know what I mean? Where like it wouldn't be funny without the context of the rest of it. And I kind of made a distinction between that and funniest line.
Okay, yeah, no, absolutely.
So the thing I had from Homer the Heretic is, I think you quoted it earlier when he sets his house on fire and then he says, "Everyone's stupid except me." Is that the same moment?
Yeah, I think he says it, and then like a few moments later, he burns the house down. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. I wrote that down too. That's great. Treehouse 3. Did you barricade the door? Oh, the zombies. No.
Also, I love the you killed Zombie Flanders. He was a zombie?
That is considered by a lot of people one of the funniest lines of the entire series.
Yeah, I knew that was like a big fan favorite from that episode.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, I wrote that down too. I mean, it's really funny. Do you know the name of the convict guy with a snake tattoo that's always getting thrown in prison?
Oh, Snake.
Is that his name?
So he's just called Jailbird for the longest time, and they give him a name, and it's just Snake.
Okay.
I think his full name is like Snake Jailbird.
Well, now I should be able to remember it. But I don't have listed here which episode it is. Dang it! But there's a place somewhere where he escapes from prison. It's because Maggie's driving a car and wrecks into it.
Oh, that's. Oh. It's the Itchy and Scratchy movie.
Is it?
I was about to say that, and then I second guessed myself. No, that's what that is.
He's got
because Homer's supposed to be watching, or Bart's supposed to be watching her, and he gets in trouble for it.
It's one of my favorite bits because he's got a VCR and he goes, "Oh no, beta."
My favorite bit of that with Maggie is when she's driving and she's like. She's driving.
Oh yeah, so where she goes like that.
He's like,
it's so good. The from New Kid on the Block, the Escape from Death Row video game.
Change of venue.
Oh no, Texas. The bit in Mr. Plow, I won't name too many of these, but there's a few of these I wanted to make sure and bring up. The bit in Mr. Plow where Homer is on a rickety wood bridge and about to fall out of it, and then there's a pristine, really nice bridge right next to it.
Also, when he's dangling on the cliff, and he like turns the radio over and the line moves, and then it like balances the track out.
We talked about the gag at the beginning of the show where people have heads revolving around them where they're remembering lines from earlier in the episode. The thing in what is Lisa's first word with "Hello, Joe." Jason could not stop laughing. Like, I almost paused the episode. I don't know what it was, Maggie and us both, we could not stop laughing at it. And, like, it was already funny, and then they repeat all four of them again, and he and I just, we couldn't even deal with it.
Well, the ones I remember, it's like...
Iron helps us play!
The baby sleeps in the crib. Hello, Joe!
Hello, Joe! There was a timing to it. There was a rhythm to it.
Yeah, no, it's so good.
It's so good. In Homer's Triple Bypass, the TV show called People Who Look Like Things. The guy's like a pumpkin head?
And his hair is like the little stem.
Wiggum rolling in a beer costume down a hill yelling "wee" until he hits a tree and for some reason it explodes. Okay, so you need to explain this to me, Austin. Something about beer in The Simpsons makes things blow up.
Well, this show just loves things that shouldn't explode exploding, and I agree with that. That is always funny.
It will. This is actually a topic I thought about bringing up earlier in the show, so I guess we can talk about it now. This is a thing that we talked about early on, where I was kind of surprised by how not fast and loose the show was playing with like the supernatural and impossible things happening, where it seemed like it more or less was trying to have an internal logic, and like sometimes it would cheat a little bit. And so like now we're starting to err more on the side of being more cartoony. There's still an internal logic for the most part, but like occasionally we'll do crazy stuff like that. And then with the supernatural, like now we just flat out have God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was one of the only characters that has 5 fingers.
Yes, which apparently was a mistake.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I read about that today, where for a long time people were trying to decide what it meant that God had 5 fingers and everyone in the show has 4, and they were like, yeah, we just animated him with 5 fingers on accident.
Oh, interesting. They definitely ran with that, because I think God and maybe Jesus, I think, are like the only characters in the show that always have 5 fingers.
Well, I guess people noticed it, and they were like, I guess we'll hang on to this as a thing.
That's what it is now, yeah.
As much as I didn't love that they did a clip show, and as much of a waste of time as some of that feels like it is, boy, the shaking up the beer can and it blowing up the house is so funny.
Yeah, and is that a clip from another episode?
No, that's what sends him to the hospital.
Yeah, okay. Maybe it's just because it's a clip show. I always think that's a clip from something else.
It's not, as far as I can tell. Like all the April Fool's Day stuff is new, because that's the act and a half that they made for that episode.
They wrote for it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that bit, that's one of the funniest things. That's one of the things I laughed hardest at in the season. It's from the clip show episode. Because it's just so absurd. I was like, but why did it explode? And then you get to the end of the episode and you're like, wait a minute, how do they afford to fix their house? I guess that's a thing in a few episodes where we kind of have to cheat with that.
Well, it's because they made all the money on the merchandise from Krusty's comeback.
Well, I hope they hadn't spent it already.
No, it just all went back to fixing the house.
Or, well, yeah, but that's later, so like, how many episodes would they have to sit around in a broken house?
Yes.
No, I was thinking about that wrong. That hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, no, that hasn't happened yet.
But yeah, that really cracked me up. Reusing backgrounds in the front.
Oh yeah. Where he's talking about how lazy the animation is sometimes, and there's just like the like it's like smaller than like a Hanna-Barbera background. Like it's really small. Just going back.
Yeah, you only see two frames, like two things. There's like a nurse in the background, and yeah,
it's a nurse on a door. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And then in Whacking Day, I really
Or
like
janitor.
I
Yeah.
really liked
Sorry.
the. No, you're fine. I really liked the repeated gag. It wasn't even that funny the first time, but the fact that we did it again is why it was great. In Whacking Day, where you have Homer accidentally almost hitting Bart in the garage when he's doing homeschool.
Yeah. No, I've had friends that are like rewatching the show and they'll send me that clip and they'll be like, "This is great."
Yeah, I think that's funny because there's an almost kind of realistic quality to it, where it's like you having class in the garage. You could almost see an idiot dad doing that, and then I guess it's also funny because it kind of calls back to the intro.
Mm-hmm.
I just had that thought. It's the intro from another angle.
Yeah.
By the way, Austin, I felt so stupid today when I remembered that I sent you that question a couple days ago, where I was like, "Oh wait, the Simpsons have two cars? Yeah, they're both in the intro. How did I not remember that?"
That was my thought when you asked.
Well, because there's that episode where Homer wrecks his car. I guess he wrecks his car a couple times this season. And right?
Mr. Plow, yeah.
Or maybe it's just Mr. Plow. See, I keep thinking he wrecks his car to go to the hospital, but again, it's because a beer can explodes. But
well,
yeah,
I got him as good as you got me. No.
yeah, that was hilarious. But I was like, oh wait, did they make up another car for this joke? No, I'm stupid. Because there's another car on the intro. Anyway.
Well, I feel like Marge's car doesn't come up super often early on. But maybe I'm just being fair.
Yeah, well,
Fair
or
to you,
maybe sometimes you're not even thinking that that's what she's driving when she's driving.
Not necessarily, because she's got like a very different looking car.
Yeah, but like if they don't show the outside of it very much and it's just internal shots, like I don't know. But anyway, the one I picked for best, and I'll try not to throw out too many examples for things, but there were a lot of contenders for funniest moment, of course, because it's such a good season. The absurdity of Homer intentionally slamming his car into the birthplace of Edgar Allan Poe on the road in Homer's triple bypass. I couldn't get over it. It's how did someone even think of that? It's like he smacks it on purpose.
Yeah, it's great.
It's so good. I also liked the news report in Lisa the Beauty Queen. The newest trend: wasting food.
Yeah, I had a number one, but I have a different number one. It's like the second you said that, it like unlocked a thing in my brain. I was like, wait a minute. No, of course this is my actual number one.
Yeah.
Maybe I just didn't think of it because I was just going off of visual, but the funniest moment for me is easily the opening of Monorail where they do the Flintstones theme and Homer crashes into the tree.
I have that in my list of possible contenders for pop culture reference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's why I didn't put it here.
So
because it's a pop culture.
The original, yeah, absolutely. The original one I had in there is the worker and parasite bit from Krusty Gets Canceled, where they replace the cartoon with like a Soviet Union cartoon that's like incredibly bizarre.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
That's really weird.
And it's Krusty's. What the hell was that? At the end.
Because they don't have Itchy and Scratchy anymore, so they have to show that.
It's he's like it's everyone's favorite rat and mouse couple from the Soviet Union, worker and parasite. And it's like by the end of it, there's not even a background; it's just squiggly lines. Oh, it's so good.
I'm just looking at comments here to see if anybody has other ones they want to mention. Darren Root, a truck of milk blows up. I'm not sure what he's talking about. Where that happens.
Yeah, there's a truck like that blows up. I can't remember which episode that's in. But yeah, that does happen.
Okay, let's go to funniest line now. And I'll let you go first, Zuri.
So I cheated completely because it was impossible to pick. There's just way too many. So what I wrote on here was just half of Lionel Hutz's lines, because he is my favorite character in this show, and like half of his big memorable lines are in this season. This season really loves using him, and he gets so many good moments, like the "Imagine a world without lawyers." Everyone's dancing, or here's my plan: we'll have surprise witnesses, every one of them more surprising than the last.
I forgot about that line.
Or Marge and Chains with the I move for a bad court thingy. A mistrial? Yeah, that's why you're the judge and I'm the law talking guy. It's so good.
Well, and there's an episode where he and Troy McClure get a lot of screen time at the same time, which I felt like was kind of done intentionally.
That's that episode. I think there's 3 episodes where they appear in the same episode, because they don't do that very often.
Yeah,
and that's one of them.
And didn't they kind of poke fun at that by having like I feel like the name of the show was really similar to the name of Lionel Hutz's like law office.
Oh, if that's the case, I've never picked up on that.
I've got it written down somewhere, and I'll try to bring that up when we get to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if that's a thing, I've never picked up on that.
Okay, I'll throw a couple of runners-up out real quick, unless you wrote some more stuff down.
No, I literally in my notes just wrote half of Lionel Hutz's lines.
From Camp Krusty, in the middle of Bart's big speech at the end, he says, and his autobiography was self-serving and had many glaring omissions.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Part 1 of Treehouse 3, I'd say the pressure is getting to Dad, but what pressure? That one's good. One that you quote all the time, from Itchy and Scratchy the movie. I can't let that happen, I won't let that happen, and I can't let that happen.
Also from Treehouse 3, in that same segment, the what is it? It's like, Marge, the doll's trying to kill me and the toaster's been laughing at me.
Just the way Lisa, in Lisa's first words, says David Hasselhoff.
Oh, yeah.
David Hasselhoff.
Absolutely.
And the way Nick Riviera says $129.95. This one almost won, but it's an exchange, and I wanted to pick a single line. When Lisa says, we're the MTV generation, we feel neither highs nor lows, and Homer says, how is it? And Lisa says, eh. I don't have the episode title listed for that one.
I have said that in at family dinners where people talk about the new generation.
From the front, Abe says, Dear Mr. President, there are too many states nowadays. Please eliminate 3.
3.
Skinner in Bart's dream at the beginning of Duffless. For a school with no Asian kids, we put on a pretty good science fair this year.
Yep. Also perfect.
And then I found myself going, would they have only written that for a dream sequence? Or would they have actually written that line as like a thing that really happens?
Oh, 100% they would have.
There are issues they had with censors through the season, which always happens. But they got away with a lot. And then but the one I picked is a little obscure, and it's like it's like in the middle of a longer thing. But it's in Lisa's first word when Marge is setting up the flashback, and she says, "Miss Pac-Man struck a blow for women's rights."
Yep.
That might sound like an odd pick with this season as strong as it is, but that doubled me over more than anything else. I thought that was so funny.
Was Jason there for that? Because as a video game guy, he probably would have loved that too.
Yeah, he lost his mind at that. He thought that was really funny. Okay, let's go to Best New Character. And there are a few.
Mm-hmm. So I went the same way the creators did and went with the Sea Captain.
Yep, so did I.
Yeah. I mean, he's the biggest standout of the new characters. Like, Chalmers is introduced, and he's fine. We'll do better things with him later. But the Sea Captain they get instantly.
Yeah, the only other character that starts the season and keeps coming back is Bumblebee Man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly, and
they're just making fun of Mexican television.
Yeah. Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, it doesn't really speak to me, but it's there. And then there's that. Well, like, I guess God counts. And then they have.
I mean, he was the main boss of the Simpsons, like the final boss of the Simpsons game, so maybe.
And then they have a character that I think they intended to keep bringing back, but only got the one appearance in Mr. Black.
Mr. Black.
Yeah. And then they also this season introduced Sarah Wiggum and Jub Jub the Lizard.
Yeah, and Sarah Wiggum got a spotlight episode a few seasons ago.
I heard about that. Probably from you. Yeah. You probably mentioned it the last time we talked about The Simpsons on camera 2 years ago.
And I think they like completely reinvent that character in order to do that, because she's really nothing.
Darren Root, for whatever reason, wrote Dr. Nick, but that's not a new character.
No, he's introduced in season 2.
But he gets a lot to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's either 2 or 3. I think it's 2.
Okay, now we move on to most legitimately heartwarming moment. And this one was tough, too. I wrote down 4 or 5, but go ahead.
I was back and forth, and I think, like, right up to when we started, I was like, it's going to be this. No, it's going to be this. My runner-up is the ending of Lisa's first word with Elizabeth Taylor as Maggie. And I think the payoff of that throughout the episode is really great. Where none of the kids will say dad, and then she does at the end.
Yeah, I've got that listed too. I didn't pick it, but it was in there.
Yeah, I almost did, and then I went no, because there's only one ending in this, or like one moment this season that makes me feel good at any time of year, every time I see it. Which is the ending of I Love Lisa, where they're swinging together and they're playing the Monster Mash.
Yeah, which was such a weird callback.
And every time I hear that song, it just makes me feel happy.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think that's funnier. That's funny before it's heartwarming, like it is.
I think that's probably why it lands for me so much, is that it's also funny.
Yeah, maybe that's the sweet spot for a show like this.
Hmm.
I mean, similarly, I was also really back and forth, and similarly, I almost picked uh, Bart and Homer in the future at the end of the Itchy and Scratchy movie.
Oh yeah, well of course that would land, especially for you.
Yeah,
She loved that father and son stuff.
but the one I ended up going with is The End of Duffless, which is also a song like yours is, with Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head when Homer goes on a bike ride with Marge. Like, it's legitimately heartwarming. It's really good.
Yeah, no, it's very sweet.
Because you don't really know where that's going. Like, you don't actually expect him to give up the beer and go back to his wife like he does. I mean, I guess with like a minute left in the episode, but it could have ended a lot darker, more cynical than that.
No, it could have just ended with "and now back to the status quo" because there are episodes that do that.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
weird because the season overall is kind of it feels more cynical, particularly with its satire. But then, like we said, the weird contrast is that like Homer is written a little bit nicer, at least most of the time, and Marge is more okay with crazy stuff he does. So it's kind of odd that both of those things happen in the same season.
Mhm. It reminds me of there's an episode. I can't remember which season. It's either the beginning of just after the classic era or at the end of the classic era, um, where Milhouse moves away, and it's like a big bonding thing like that with Bart and Lisa, where it's like now Bart doesn't have his best friend, so now they have to hang out, and it's got like a similar ending where Milhouse comes back, and then Lisa's like, "Oh well, I lost my best friend," and then there's like a similar ending with the two of them.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that one.
Yeah, I can't even remember what it's called, but that is an episode.
We'll see if that wins for you when we get to that season.
Maybe, I don't know. You hit a certain point, it's going to be hard to find genuinely heartfelt moments.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. And see, that's what I want from the show is that balance between that and the more cynical comedy. Okay, best pop culture reference. Mine's going to be really obvious.
Wait, can I? Yes, can I throw out yours because I just know it offhand?
And I wrote a bunch of them down too. Like there were contenders, and then and then it came up, and I was like, yeah, I have to use that. There's no getting around it.
So your winner 100% is Mirror, right?
Yeah. So it's in
Of
Last
course.
Exit to Springfield, and it's when Lisa has these horrifying braces, which I didn't put in my list for disturbing things, but that could have counted. And she does the Joker thing from '89, where she's like mirror, and then she starts laughing hysterically when she sees it, sadistically, and then she does the mirror break. So they shoot it the same way. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's great. Do you want to throw out your runner-ups, or do you want me to throw out mine?
Yeah, I can mention a couple of these real quick. Let's see. So, like I said, I put the Flintstones opening from Marge versus the Monorail in here, and that would have won if the '89 thing hadn't happened. The Miracle on 34th Street reference in New Kid on the Block is great. 18,000 letters, all addressed to Santa Claus. Lionel Hutz in New Kid on the Block, speaking of your favorite character, this is the most blatant case of fraudulent advertising since my suit against the film The Neverending Story.
Yeah.
What?
I I don't say this often, but you, Homer, are one of the greatest heroes in all of America, or whatever it is he says. I can't remember. It's every moment with him is so good.
I wrote down Alfred Hitchcock Presents in Streetcar Called Marge, and then I wrote down Alfred Hitchcock Presents in Treehouse 3.
Well, and specifically the birds too, with Streetcar, where all the babies are up watching them.
Oh yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that, but they referenced specifically the intro of Alfred Hitchcock Presents in both of those episodes.
Mm-hmm. Well, because it cuts from the babies, that's just the bird shot, and then it cuts to that Alfred Hitchcock.
Okay, I missed that we were doing the birds there, but yeah, he's walking down the street like he does in his show, and then they have Homer do the silhouette in Treehouse.
Yeah, and the Ayn Rand School for Tots.
Yes, I wrote that down. So I added a new category, which was funny signs, and
oh yeah,
and I wrote that down in funny signs. And then Burns is the Grinch in Last Exit to Springfield. That's one of the best.
Yeah,
the animation in that is really impressive.
I love that it's like, they sing without blenders, they sing without like whatever it is, and then it's like all normal things, and at the end it's like, the Dr. Seuss nonsense words.
I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Okay, Austin, what is yours?
Mine's weird, but it kills me every time. I put the President play from I Love Lisa. We have the mediocre president song, and the assassination of Abraham Lincoln with John Wilkes Booth.
Oh yeah, that's great.
That's also a Terminator joke.
Yep.
Yeah. Hasta la vista, AB.
No, Jason thought that was pretty funny too. Austin, give us your best music choice.
Okay, so I put two. I put an original song and then a use of a song that already exists.
Yeah,
original
we should
song
probably
is the
split these
Monorail
up.
Song. Yeah, probably moving forward. The best original song is the Monorail song, easily.
Yep.
And then, so it's hard because for using an actual song, one of them it's for the actual use of it, and the other is not, which sounds weird, but it's the best one I'd say is the Barry White. Can't Get Enough of Your Love when they're doing the snake whacking.
Yeah.
That part's great. But I contemplated putting the Red Hot Chili Peppers part in there, but it wasn't for the song, so I couldn't justify it.
Yeah.
But it's when he's talking to Krusty and he's like, you gotta change your lyrics. And they're like, nah, man, you can't change our lyrics. Our lyrics are a part of us. Okay. but when you say what I gotta get it, put it in you, could you change it to what I want is to really hug and kiss you? And they're like, oh man, that's way better.
That's so much better. Yeah, it's really funny. But yeah, that's more of an exchange than a song.
Yeah, so I couldn't justify it, even though it was about the song.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a gray area.
Exactly.
But it's really good. Yeah, this was very difficult for me to, for original piece, it's definitely Monorail. Now, if Monorail hadn't been in this season, it would have been the musical in the streetcar called Marge, and I feel like that gets overshadowed too much by some other things, because it's also really impressive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the two songs from the show that I sing the most, like that'll just come to me and I'll just kind of sing them while I'm like walking down the street, are the Monorail song and Apu's song from Streetcar.
I like the bit right after that when Marge says, I still think we should have used the money to fix Main Street. And Homer says, you should have written a song like that guy. What I picked is more obscure than... Yeah, maybe I should have gone with Barry White. I forgot to write that one down, but that really made me laugh. I'm still going to stick to the thing I picked, though, just because I want to bring it up. And that is in Last Exit to Springfield, when Lisa starts playing... so she's got that, like, Bob Dylan-esque ballad that she makes up. And that's another original thing. But then right after that, she just starts busting out classical gas. That's hilarious. That's my pick.
Yeah. That's great too.
Ba-na-na-na-na. Yeah, it's great. Most disturbing moment of the season. Do you have one?
My most disturbing moment.
And I'm going to suggest that there is an objective, correct answer to this. And I want to see if Austin
Definitely
agrees.
not what I wrote.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's hot in here. Because mine's just mean.
Is it?
I put Bette Midler's face.
No, that is terrifying. The way they drew that, no, it's terrifying.
Yeah. No, it is like the most unflattering drawing. She's got like the horse smile.
And there were potential guest actors that, guest celebrities that chose not to be in the show because they either, because they didn't like what was going to be done with them. But I guess she was fine with that.
Yeah, the only thing that she had was they had to reference littering.
Yes.
Which is why that's in there.
Because she had a big campaign against littering.
Mm-hmm. It's very similar to the Paul McCartney cameo in season 7.
Okay, I'm going to amend what I said and say that objectively there are 2 potential answers to this. Because I will accept
because what
that.
I said is correct.
Because yeah. But if that hadn't happened, I think you'll agree with this. Bart's homemade clown bed.
I knew that was going to be your answer.
In Lisa's first word, the way that is designed is kind of brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's so good.
It's got its hands up around the front of the bed. I'm looking at it right now. It's terrifying. Look at it. Like, ugh. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Joe.
Okay, do you have a couch gag and a chalkboard gag?
Yes, my couch gag. I've always had an affinity for the. I can't even think of what it's called. I think it's like a cha-cha line, like the, like the singers, they do the kick dance. I've always had an affinity for that one in the background, but backs out and it's like a full circus.
Yeah, that's a holdover though. That was from last season.
Ah, crap! It is, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's fair if that's still your favorite, but that's a repeat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot that was in season 3.
Because they do repeat a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. No, that is definitely a thing.
I'm hoping mine doesn't also turn out to be a repeat, but I don't think it is.
What I put for the best chalkboard gag was I will not defame New Orleans.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Coffee isn't for kids, specifically for how it like scribbles out at the bottom.
Yeah, that's funny too. But yeah, the New Orleans thing is really interesting because that was a response to their getting in trouble about that gag from Streetcar Named Marge.
Yeah, exactly.
I read about that today, and apparently New Orleans was very upset that they had lyrics disparaging New Orleans.
Well, it won't be the first or last time.
Really?
Maybe it's the first. I don't know, but it definitely happened with Australia, who banned their episode, and it happened with I think Brazil.
Oh wow, it's comedy, guys.
Yeah,
they're equal opportunity.
The episode's awesome, by the way.
They're gonna make fun of everybody. Where is that?
Season 8, I think, or maybe it's either 6 or 8.
You know, we got a long way to go if we're gonna do this every 2 years. We'll be back, folks. We'll be back soon.
Well, then Australia will ban that discussion when we get there.
Ooh, it's gonna be really interesting to get a strike over that. My couch gag is from Marge versus the Monorail with everyone in Springfield in front of the couch.
Oh, that was my runner-up, so I'm glad you said that, because now that my one was already used, it just defers to that.
And then my chalkboard gag, because I don't understand it, and I'm just trying to imagine what the situation with Bart would be that would make him have to write this, is from Marge in Chains. I do not have diplomatic immunity.
Well, he wasn't the bad guy in Lethal Weapon 2.
That was another one that Jason and I both laughed at real hard at the same time, and we just both looked at each other. What does it mean? Like, what did he do? Where did he go?
Why did he have to go back to school and write that?
Okay, MVP of the season. I'm very curious to see what you put down for this.
So I have 3, and
Wow.
2 of them I already talked about, so I'll just throw them out quickly. I put Homer because, like I said, it's very Homer focused this season. I put Krusty because I thought out of the guest character or the side characters, he got the most to do, which, like you said, is maybe just because it's bookended. But I think ultimately the biggest MVP of the season is not a character; it's an actor, and it's Phil Hartman.
Yeah.
Who is this is maybe the most he's in any of the seasons. Like,
He's
in it
everywhere.
a ton. Yeah, no, he's in the season a lot, and he's always great.
Yeah,
that was mine.
That's a cheat, but it's a fair cheat. Like, that's kind of just right. So for main characters, I have to say Homer, but I want to put in kind of a minor character for this also, because, like we said, there's such a balance. There's so many different characters that get a lot to do, but some do come a little bit more into focus than others, and I'm gonna give it to Wiggum.
Oh yeah, Wiggum gets a ton to do. I think next season is the start of Apu becoming the big one.
Yeah, because he's still not very often really integral to the main story, although it happens at least once this season.
Mm-hmm.
Because
he gets his first spotlight.
He gets Marge thrown in jail.
Yeah, he's a giant jerk in that episode.
Yeah, he's awful in that. And they're like doing some kind of ceremony and singing when she gets thrown in prison.
Yeah.
Okay, I did add funny signs, and I don't know why I put it here, but I did. So I just want to name a couple that I thought were really funny, and then put in a best of, and you can add this too next time if you want to. Mr. Plow, Fourth Reich Motors.
Oh, Mr. Plow also has one of the lines I quote the most in daily life, which is when he's looking at cars, he's got that Soviet Union car, and the guy's like, "Put it in H." He's pushing his car.
Oh, you say that?
Oh yeah,
that's really funny. You already brought up Anne Brand's School for Tots in Streetcar Named Marge, but I wrote that one down. And then my favorite one is from Selma's Choice, the Buzzing Sign Diner.
It's pretty great too.
It's pretty good. Okay, best guest character. You can probably guess mine.
Mm-hmm. It's Adam West.
It's Adam West, yeah.
Yeah.
Easily.
And since he was my runner-up, I'll just throw out Leonard Nimoy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Leonard Nimoy was going to be my runner-up, and it's like, if you're me, how do you pick between Star Trek and Batman? But Nimoy has really weird, bizarre things to do, which are funny, but I like how kind of obvious but still clever all the Batman stuff is with Adam West, because that's sort of the joke, is he's kind of leaning into all of the obvious 60s Batman stuff you would expect him to do. So every time they go to him, it starts with a regular angle, and then it turns Dutch, which is really funny. And then I like the bit where Barney goes, "Superman, your secret is safe with me."
Yeah, no, all that stuff's great, and I love his commentary on the Tim Burton movies.
Yep.
It's so funny. And then with Leonard Nimoy,
there's only one Catwoman. And then he names all three of the actresses.
Eartha Kitt.
Or Lee Merriweather. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. What the hell's Robin? Yeah, no, and then Leonard Nimoy's funny for the opposite reasons, where it's like, and that carries over to his second guest appearance in the X-Files crossover, because he also just shows up and is just weird in that.
Yeah, I think they lean in that they lean more into, because I saw that not too long ago, into the like introductions and voiceover narration that he'll do for documentaries and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're making fun of all that. And I think they do some of that in Futurama with him, maybe.
Yeah, I think he's maybe only in the Star Trek episode, but I can't remember.
Oh, I thought he was in 2 or 3 of those.
That's possible, and I just don't remember.
But I can't remember. Oh, so with Monorail, they originally wanted to, or they thought about going to Leonard Nimoy, but they didn't think he would do it. And then they went to Takei, and even though Takei had been in the show already, he declined it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, weird. I wonder
for
why.
For a really weird reason. He didn't want to make fun of public transportation because he was a member of the board of directors of the Southern California Rapid Transit District, which is now the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transit Authority. And so they had to go to Nimoy.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, I had to make sure I had a note about that because it's really weird.
That's so strange. I'd never heard that before.
You're welcome. Okay, so now, Austin, we go to best episode. And this was a nightmare for me. I'm still not sure about it and happy with my choice.
Yeah. I was thinking about it. I'm like, I can fight with myself all day and justify like half the episodes hitting that point. And then I went, nah, just Marge versus the Monorail. Just
So you picked the obvious one that everybody picks.
yeah, I was like, it's one of my favorites. One that I go to a ton.
It's like if we were doing TNG and you pick Best of Both Worlds. Like, it's, yeah, fine. It's the best one. Deal with it.
Sometimes it's just correct.
Yeah, it's in my list, but I didn't pick it for favorite. Mr. Plow. Mr. Plow got real close. Say again.
I said you picked it for worst.
No. Mr. Plow got real close. The Front got real close. I had a really hard time not picking the Front, and I'm still back and forth. So I guess for me, maybe actually what I should have said as MVP is Itchy and Scratchy, because the 2 episodes that I went back and forth on the hardest were the Itchy and Scratchy episodes. It's
Itchy and Scratchy episodes are always great.
It's the Front and it's the Itchy and Scratchy movie, and that's what I ultimately ended up picking, but I still don't know if I'm happy about it.
Because I think we stopped doing that around 9 or 10, but the first several seasons, there's one at least every season, and they're always fantastic.
Wow, I'm excited then. And I'm not even the biggest fan of that joke. Mm-hmm. But they just have really good stories when they do episodes about them.
Well, one of the things that I found distracting that I'd forgotten about is that the guy who runs that company is not voiced by the same guy in this episode. And I guess I looked it up, and he's Hank Azaria for I think this season and maybe next season. I can't remember. But then he's voiced by the same guy up until that guy died and they retired the character. But he's got a very distinct voice, so I was like, oh, that's Hank Azaria.
Why retire it? Why not just go back to Hank Azaria since he did it first?
Then yeah, that's true too.
That's weird.
I feel like, though, they hit a point where they didn't know what to do with that stuff anymore. And they were like, yeah, we don't really have anything else to do. And then he died, so
fair enough.
Whatever, just retire the character.
But yeah, I just like all of the kind of hard satire that they do about the world of television, and just the plotting in the Front is just really clever and creative, and all of Abe's stuff in that is really funny. The only thing I wasn't sure about that is that I could have seen the audience at the award show reacting either way when he gave his speech. I wasn't sure that they'd throw tomatoes.
Yeah, I could have seen that going either way too. I also think that's the first episode that gives Grandpa his first name.
Yeah. Yeah, they make a big
I
deal
think.
out of it.
Hmm. Yeah, he's gotta look at his underwear. I think, right? Yeah,
Yes.
yes, because he rips it out.
Yep. Uh, but yeah, I gave it to the Itchy and Scratchy movie, like partly because it was moving, I guess. You know, as we talked about earlier, and I appreciated that they like really put a spotlight on the fact that Homer never sticks to his guns with discipline. I thought it was like really important to do an episode about that. I think they handled it really well.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great
So
episode.
I thought that was a really
And
funny episode. It was moving and it thematically really resonated with me. Like I'm always a big fan of like bad parenting stuff, which I guess is one of the things that I do like really latch on to this show for. Because I've
Mhm.
never been a giant Simpsons fan, but I think I'm becoming more of one as we're doing this. The last 2 years notwithstanding.
Well, and that's also the episode where they confirm Michael Jackson and Dustin Hoffman were guest voices on the show.
Oh really?
Yeah, there's the joke where Lisa runs in having just seen the movie, and she's talking about how great it is, and she's like, "Oh, there were so many celebrity cameos like Michael Jackson, Dustin Hoffman. Of course, they didn't really use their real name, but you know it was them."
Oh, I missed that. That's great.
Yeah.
I feel so dense for not catching that.
Well, it's been a while since we watched them, and you guys didn't get to watch the Michael Jackson episode, too.
No, I mean I had seen it not too long before that, but
Hmm.
it's been a while now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, that's a great one.
do you have a worst episode?
So
Are you gonna
it's
cop out and say
default.
it's the clip show?
It's default. It's the clip show. 100%.
Like I think that's the right answer, but then it had that bit at the beginning that made me laugh so hard. Like the new stuff that's in it is really good.
Well, I think that's just the issue. Is I think it's just a really tight season. So it's like I really like every episode. So by default, that's the worst one for me.
So I did go ahead and pick one other than that. I guess I'll
Mhm.
say that they're tied if nothing else, but I didn't love Marge Gets a Job.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, I like that one a lot, but that's fair.
I thought the situation was kind of obvious, which is funny because that was one of the big early things that Conan O'Brien pitched. Apparently, he didn't write that one.
Mhm.
I don't think he only wrote two, and I can't remember what the other one was besides Monorail. But he only actually wrote two.
Well, and with the Simpsons writers' room, like everyone is a hand in everything.
Right,
So
right.
it's yeah.
But I just mean like who actually gets the screenplay credit.
Mhm.
He's got the two. But yeah, he pitched Mr. Burns falls in love with Marge, and I was like, eh. It felt like a season two kind of idea.
Mhm.
Just like I was kind of surprised
Yeah.
we hadn't done it already, and the execution was okay. But I mean, I'm admitting that some of it is just I couldn't get real excited about the premise.
The big
There's some
moments
funny
that I
stuff
always
that it does when she gets to the plant and she is not like initially picking up on how like awful of a place it is, and then she starts noticing the morale and stuff like that's like some of that's really funny. Like the guy, this is the same episode, right? The guy who wants to commit suicide, and then she suggests that they start playing music, and then he really wants to kill himself.
Well, no, he's gonna kill everyone else.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
He's like, I am the angel of death. I will bring pure. The day of
forgot that.
purification is at hand.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
No, there's some great moments. Like, I love the Tom Jones bit in that episode.
See, that didn't do
I love
anything for
that.
me. I was not, for whatever reason, I didn't think that was that funny. And I think
That's
maybe,
fair.
and this is not fair to this episode because it predates it, but the problem is, for me, was Mars Attacks.
Oh yeah.
Like I just, again, it's not the episode's fault because it's before that, but I'm like, I kind of feel like I've been here and done this already. Because I've seen Mars Attacks too
fair.
many times, so it was hard to find that funny. It's like it ends on his big song. Apparently, everybody really liked him when he came in and did his dialogue, and he offered to do a concert for everyone.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, is that funny?
That is funny. Yeah, for some reason I only know when it comes to stories like that about like the recording sessions, I only know about when the writers were like giant perverts. And you get like the Michelle Pfeiffer one, and in this season you get Elizabeth Taylor saying "Daddy," and they had to get her to re-record it multiple times because they thought it was too sexy.
Yeah, and there's some contention among the people who were there about her attitude and how she left it, because she either said, after they made her say it 20 times, she either said "F you" and stormed out, or she said like "F you" is just sort of a joke for making her do that, but like she wasn't actually angry. There's some contention about whether or not she was pissed about that.
Well, it makes her plot in Krusty Gets Canceled funnier.
Oh yeah, true. But I gotta say, like just full disclosure, I crammed for this. Like I read as much as I could read with like a couple hours before the show started.
Yeah. No, I mean, you've been on point with that stuff tonight.
Well, I don't want you to think I was trying to upstage you, Austin. But I came into this a little bit worried I wasn't going to have enough to bring to the table. So I was like, well, I should probably read some things and know something about background. And partly just because when I read a little bit, I could tell that there was like a little bit of like turmoil and like difficulty behind the scenes getting everything done, and I was like, this seems almost more interesting than the other seasons we've talked about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I also just went down that rabbit hole because I got curious. And there's so much information out there. Like, this is a show that is well documented. So like, even if you don't have the DVDs, and I was an idiot, and I used to have the first like 7 or 8 sets, and I got rid of them because I'm not a big fan of the show. And then, because it was on Disney Plus, and I was like, I can watch it. And then it didn't occur to me that I would want special features, for this show. But like, there's plenty of information online, and I have this great book that I'll be able to use for the first 20 seasons. So that's good.
If you just go to the individual Wikipedia pages, like per episode,
there's a ton of stuff.
If you just go to production, it's like everything they say in the commentary for the episode. So like, even if you don't have the DVDs, like most of the information you're going to get from them is somebody wrote it down there.
Oh, cool. It's good to know that that's what the source is, because that's what I did. I read like 80% of those.
Yeah. I remember last season, I listened to a few commentaries and went, I'm not learning anything new from this. Like, these are good, but I don't need to do these as much for notes.
Yeah, well, I don't feel so bad for not having those now, except the really good releases I wish I hadn't got. Because now I care more because we're doing this.
And it's those bullet points on the Wikipedia page told in a fun way.
Exactly. Okay, so we did worst episode.
And I think that's the last one.
That's the list, yeah.
Yep.
Any other big points you want to bring up, or episodes you want to kind of spotlight that we haven't talked about much before we do our commentary?
Let me just take a look here. Let's see.
We're going to be past 3 hours like we were last time. I remember that. I remember it vividly. Like it happened only a year ago.
I mean, it's always the way. It's always the way. Is there anything else for any of the episodes that you want to mention? I feel like we've touched every episode, at least to a degree.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is there anything we haven't at least referenced? I feel like we've referenced everything.
We've referenced every episode.
Look at us.
And it only took us 3 hours.
Well, yeah, but there's a lot of stuff here to talk about. You're right. We hit everything.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think it is time to bring up Marge versus the Monorail. And The Simpsons is still, of course, on Disney Plus. That's how I'm going to watch it, because I got rid of all my discs.
Oh, that's something that we should mention.
Yes, sir.
Which is that this season has the big famous moment that everybody noticed for the badly cropped episodes on Disney Plus, which is the Duffless episode, where it's like Duff Light and Duff Dry, and there's like the 3 tubes going up that are then just connected to one tube.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. And it's all the same thing, and you can't see that in their cropped version.
Okay, so say that one more time. What is missing in the crop version?
The frame doesn't go high enough to show that where the tubes go. So you just see the vats and the 3 tubes going up, but you can't see them connecting at the top.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget. I know we've talked about this, but does Disney not have it set up where you can change the aspect ratio, but you have to remember to change it?
Yeah. So if you go on to The Simpsons on Disney Plus and you hit details, the first thing it'll say is remastered aspect ratio, and it's a little toggle.
That's right.
Yeah.
See, I've asked you this before, but it was a little while ago. Mm-hmm.
No, because I've gone to other people's houses and they have Disney Plus, and I put on The Simpsons and I'm like, whoa. Hold on, turn this off for a second. Go to details. We gotta turn this off before we start watching this.
I gotta make sure and do that from now on then, because I don't know if I have it set right.
Well, once you hit it, it'll just always have it. It's
been a little while. I can't remember if I did that.
It's just if it's it's got the boxes on the sides.
Okay, folks, if you want to watch this episode with us, make sure that you rig up Season 4, Episode 12. It's Marge versus the Monorail, an episode so famous that nobody feels the need to say the whole episode title, and it's just Monorail, because what other show even has anything about this subject? It's so obscure and weird. And we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Bartman says, get to timestamp 0. He's all washed out. You can't even see his face because of where my light is.
Timestamp 0, dudes.
Dudes? Yeah, and eat my shorts, says washed out Bartman. Anyway. Okay. It's time to watch television. Okay, make sure you get to timestamp 0. Get ready to press play when I say now. I don't have a timer this time because this is only 23 minutes, but if you need a timestamp, let us know, and we're going to get right into it. Here we go. Austin, are you set up?
Yep, I'm good. I'm watching it right here.
Oh, cool. You got it on your iPad there. Oh, that's a good idea. Have it, right up to your face. But you can't really listen to it that way. I'm just going to
hold it like that.
He's like, this is what I think about you and your face, Cap. The most disturbing part of this discussion has been your face.
The worst part is it's going to be like that for 23 minutes. Then when it comes down, it's going to be Bette Midler's face.
We both went there. All right. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, let me drop my volume here. Everybody, please press play right now. See, I don't know if I was just in not the right mood for this or whatever a while back when I initially started preparing for this, but I watched this Monorail episode and I was like, I mean, it's funny. I get why people like it, but it's not impressing me the way it was a lot of other people. And then I watched it this week and I was like, I don't know what I was talking about. This is great. It's really, really funny. But I think the problem was I was thinking too hard about Conan O'Brien. I think maybe that was my problem, where I was like, I'm seeing too much of the guy I know from TV in the Simpsons episode. Like, he's constantly referencing superheroes and Batman and stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that was
You
very
just know him
distracting
as
for
a
me.
comedian too much that you can see the seams, I guess, that he's putting in. I mean, that's understandable. Oh, are you talking? I can't hear you.
Oh no! Have I been muted this whole time?
For like a little bit, because wasn't looking, and then I looked up and I could see you're like,
Oh
oh
no!
wait, he's talking.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So I was just saying a lot of our favorite things from our list in a row already.
Mm-hmm.
Did you at least hear me say the thing about how I was not sure about this episode because of too much Conan O'Brien?
The Conan thing, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't muted
gotcha.
the whole time.
No. Well, I responded to that.
I know, but I got worried for a second that I was remembering that incorrectly. But yeah, like Homer jumping through the windshield.
It's so funny. Well, and then the stuff with well, we're gonna get an '89 reference in this too.
Wait, really?
Yeah, but it's the grapple gun shot. I'm pretty sure is a reference to '89.
Oh, I didn't see that as a direct reference to '89, but this close to that movie, you're probably right, because he shoots it up into the ceiling,
action music.
Sort of like in the Flugelheim.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to that. Okay, was that shot intentionally a reference to something when he's strapped in and he's got the thing over his face?
That's Silence of the Lambs.
Is that Silence of the Lambs? Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have that thought before.
Yeah, it's the Hannibal Lecter shot.
A point I wanted to make earlier, and I can't think of any great examples right now, but I was noticing this throughout the season. There were a lot more moments that felt like newspaper strip gags.
Oh yeah, which makes sense. I mean, I guess it's kind of weird because obviously that's where Groening starts, but he's not show running it at this point.
Yeah. But there's stuff like when, and maybe there's more from earlier seasons that I'm not thinking of. Like, there definitely were some, but I felt like I was noticing more of them. I don't remember which episode it is, but there's the bit where Homer's lying on the couch, imagining a perfect world where he's just lying on a couch. And I'm like, that's a newspaper gag.
Yeah, it's a Garfield specific joke too.
Yeah, it sure is. Oh, I forgot about the mechanical ants. There's that episode. there's that episode where Bart has the ray gun that makes everybody. It's not disco. What is it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, is it the go-go ray?
It's the go-go ray. I can't stop doing the monkey.
And I had that thought where I was like, oh, this is too far for the internal logic of this show. And then it was a dream sequence, and I was like, oh, they got me with that.
Yeah, and it opens with that, and Camp Krusty also opens in a similar way with a dream sequence like that.
Yeah, they do it a lot. Oh, yeah, Mr. Snurb.
Mr. Snurb spurns backwards.
Yep, that's great.
The best part is if you look up this clip, like a clip of this on YouTube, every comment is always like, why didn't they bring him back? He just popped up for this one gag. That was it.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh my
God.
God.
Where it's like playing into the joke, where it's like, oh, Mr. Snurb.
Are you sure? I mean, it is YouTube, though. Are you positive, though?
I mean, I hope so.
I don't think you can be sure of anything. Marge is on point in this episode, by the way. She's absolutely right about what the money should be allocated for.
As a person that lives in a town that is like that, yes.
Yeah. And that's a thing that a lot of people can relate to. The part where, you know, where like the town just does not keep up the roads in maintenance in general, but the bit where the guy just falls right in a hole. The popcorn truck. It's so good.
Well, it feels like the obvious end point for this episode is that the anchor rips through the road and hits a pothole, and then stops it, but it just causes more damage. It's almost like a false setup.
Oh yeah. Are you saying it should have done that, or it's better as a false setup?
No, I think I like it more that it's not, because there is also that added element of the anchor rips up the road.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that as a callback. What I really like, and I guess this is Phil Hartman again, right?
Mm-hmm. Like I said, MVP of the season, because he's also the Big Brother in that Big Brother episode.
You know what? I also didn't love that one. It's okay.
That's fair. That one is just okay.
The Lyle Landley character is cool because immediately, if you're familiar with Music Man, you already know what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And like it's kind of rare for this show, at least this early, to do a full-on, or kind of a full-on parody like this, where the whole episode is kind of touching on, you know, a touchstone, but it's not like scene for scene. It's not one for one. It's just like this initial setup is, you know, a lot like that scene in Music Man, and yeah, thematically, it's about the same things.
Conan O'Brien also at the Simpsons Take the Bull live event performed this live.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so weird to hear this for years on a tape and then finally watch it.
I bet.
Yeah, this is really well written, and it's not like a direct parody to that song from Music Man, but it's, you know, obviously adjacent and real close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never seen that, so I didn't even realize it was referencing anything until you brought it up.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, I probably should have assumed that, but...
Yeah, well, it will add a whole other dimension to it then if you ever actually see the Music Man, because we're doing Music Man stuff all the way through it.
Oh, okay, interesting. I'll add that to the list.
When they're in the car just now and they're saying monorail, monorail, monorail like that's a thing right at the beginning of Music Man.
Oh, okay.
But they don't straight up do a 76 trombones at the end, which is kind of surprising.
Oh, yeah. SoCap, can the Superman outrun the can't talk, sorry. Can Superman outrun the Flash?
Sure. Hey, this is not related to this episode, but is there... Oh, Truckosaurus comes up in a few places, doesn't it?
Yeah, this animation specifically is from season 2.
Oh, okay. Celebrity voice impersonated.
I like to think that they did that and then realized the voice wasn't super close, so they added that joke.
Yeah, I wonder if that's why they did that.
I hope so.
But no, I wanted to ask you, does Comic Book Guy show up anywhere this season? Homer, no.
I don't think so.
I'm only asking because I don't remember a place, but on Wiki there's a list of all the characters that appear in voices, and he's in there. Mm-hmm. But I don't remember him showing up, so...
I don't remember him showing up
that might just
either.
be a copy-paste.
Yeah, possibly.
I think it's so interesting that you're not familiar with Music Man and you still put this at the top of your list.
Yeah, because I think this episode's just funny in general.
It is, yeah. Well, it proves that. I mean, and that's maybe one of the big answers to the question I asked at the beginning of the show. Why does this
Oh,
hold
that's
up?
right. I said I had the three things, and I said two, and then I didn't say the third one. That was my third one.
Dude, you pulled a me so hard there. I do that so much. I'm like,
That was a wraparound.
it's three things. Yeah, sure. We'll call it that. It was a bookend. It was a framing device.
That was my third point.
But yeah, this is such a weird, uh, out there idea, and I think that's a lot of the reason that people love it so much. Like, it's kind of crazy that it even got made.
What? And in a way, it's almost more of a season 5 or 6 episode, or maybe even 7 and 8, where they're getting crazier. Like this fits right in with Homer going to space.
Yeah, I guess so. Except that seems more far fetched than this.
No, and that specifically is. But like, there is a lot of just more out there stuff in those seasons.
But yeah, this is hilarious as a parody because it's the same thing with Music Man except dangerous. Because Music Man is a con artist that pretends like he can like magically make all your kids brilliant with as a band with musical instruments. And this is, we're gonna make a monorail that doesn't work, and everyone's going to crash and die. I think that's part of why it works so well as a parody too, because it's a completely different situation.
Yeah, it completely removes what it originally was.
And they're both kind of ridiculous, but this is, of course, like 900 times more ridiculous. I like the lighting in the scene.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about how much farther we're pushing the animation quality. I'm glad that we're looking at it now because you're seeing this in practice, like all the shadow work and stuff. Again, there's some nice things in 3, but this pushes all of that. Oh, there it is. There's the heads.
Yep. I called the big one Bitey.
This one specifically feels like another Psycho callback.
Oh, especially with the music.
Yeah, and then we're gonna get the old woman again, right? Is this where that happens? Yeah, this is where Hello Joe is. That's the Hello Joe lady. Like they know they're calling back to that. Oh my god, that really cracks me up. Hello Joe.
Hello Joe.
So I guess that's supposed to be Flanders' mom.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, I wonder if that character is still Flanders' mom.
I hope so.
Me too. Yeah, this ghost town is a really funny idea.
Well, I want to know why they came up with that joke where he has like a slightly different haircut when they get to Springfield. He's like, sorry, I really should have stopped for that haircut.
So, are you okay with kind of continuity cheats like Kent Brockman gets fired and then he's just back at his news place again?
Oh yeah, that's fine with me.
Things like that. Yeah, I think I am too. I was just curious as to your opinion on
Here's
that.
not Perry, and we'll get Luke Perry. Yeah.
This is very depressing.
Oh yeah.
I almost brought this up earlier. I'm glad we're watching it. Where Lurleen comes back, and she's totally washed out and has a completely different voice, and like, I really like that episode, so it bothers me.
Well, and she will get another episode where we bring back Beverly D'Angelo.
Oh
But
yeah, you
it
said.
also but it also falls on that her life was incredibly depressing after that.
Oh good. I can't wait to see that. Oh, he's losing money out the back. That's a nice little detail. And like Lisa's hair was blowing in the wind a little bit. Like, there's just such a good attention to detail.
Well, especially with her hair blowing, like that's not something we typically go to.
No, I'm emphasizing the visuals right now because of course the main reason people love this episode is because of how funny it is and how creative the idea is. But it's also a really good looking episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that scientist in a Kubrick callback?
Oh, I'm not sure. Possibly?
Because that's a thing that everything goes back to with mad scientist type characters.
Well, and this show specifically does a lot of Kubrick parodies, so possibly.
That's unfortunate if that thing is that old.
It's older than Star Trek.
That's true. Darren and 60s Batman. Darren Root says, I think the character was reworked into the Crazy Cat Lady.
Oh, possibly. I think the voice is slightly different, but...
But could it still be Flanders' mom? Or do we bring back Flanders' mom enough where she can't be the Crazy Cat Lady?
No, because they give the Crazy Cat Lady a backstory at some point.
Oh, okay. Now, that's not the same character that makes Homer do a bunch of chores for like 50 cents, is it?
Oh, with Bart? No.
Or, sorry,
That's
Bart. It's getting late. Apologies.
No, it's okay. No, that's in one of your favorite episodes, the Three Men in a Comic Book.
Yeah. This is a fun thing to make fun of. Like old town charters that with rules that technically still apply, but nobody enforces them anymore. Have you ever looked at lists of dumb laws like that?
Oh yeah.
That's a great pastime. And like this is, a good joke every 10-15 seconds.
Well, I mean, the cosmic ballet goes on this episode.
Now, what they're making fun of specifically with Nimoy in this episode is the kind of like ethereal existential stuff he used to write. Like he would put out poetry books, and he had a real kind of flowery way of writing when he would do biographies and stuff. I mean, to some degree, I Am Not Spock is a very well written book, but it goes to some ethereal, sappy places, most assuredly. But they're actually looking at some stuff in his personality when they do that.
Oh, okay, so it's not entirely random.
No, but it works that way. But if you're, again, sort of like with Music Man, if you're familiar with Nimoy, there's another layer to it. Batman's a scientist?
See,
yeah, we've got to
Homer's
be going to Doctor
more
Strangelove
than
with
just the
that
new
guy.
Batman movies.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, see, Homer's familiar with more than just the new Batman movies. He knows
now
Batman's a scientist.
And now he's dressed like a superhero.
He's got like a Darth Vader look.
Yeah, which I didn't remember from the first time I saw this, but like he's got not just a cape, but he's even got gauntlets.
He's got a little name tag.
Yeah. I love the gag that he didn't think to tie it to something else. Yeah, why did I not...
Think harder, Homer.
Yeah, why did I not catch the gag that they're ripping up the road worse.
I mean, it's subtle enough. I've heard people talk about it that don't realize that.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not just me then.
No, I've had conversations with people where they're like, "Wait, what?"
You know, another running gag that I meant to bring up earlier is, and I think this is a good one that kind of keeps building on itself and getting more absurd, is the thing with Homer constantly, like, mishearing or talking to his own brain like they're two separate entities. We do that a lot this season.
Yeah. That's it. I'm leaving.
Yeah, that's my favorite one.
You're on your own. There's another one in a later season, maybe 7, where the brain's like, "That's it, Homer, you're on your own," and like his brain, in like a ghostly image, flies away from him, and his body just collapses.
So do they keep that gag quite a bit after this?
Brain thing, yeah. It's one of those gags that it depends on the season too. Like some will use it more than others.
This whole bit is the thing that actually feels the most Conan O'Brien to me. The whole episode is the escalator to nowhere and the like that's almost a tick joke actually.
Oh, that bit's so good.
All right, well, another one in the can. We are just knocking them out, Austin.
Well, we're gonna do
blowing through this
two
show
more in quick succession, and then we'll take a 2-year break.
I'm gonna try really, really hard not to do that, folks. So we will do season 5 as soon as humanly possible. There's a couple of other adjacent things I want to do sometime in the near future, and I'm thinking we should probably go ahead and just go on straight to 5 so that folks aren't like, okay, they're never gonna get back to the actual the actual podcast, right? But I would eventually, in maybe not too far away from 4, like to get to the critic.
We could also try to do it near 6, which has the Simpsons critic crossover.
Okay, that's a good idea. But yeah, I think because we took a lengthy accidental hiatus, it would be a bad idea to go to the critic now. So I don't want to do it yet, but I do want to do it soon. And I also want to do a show or maybe a couple of shows on the earlier Simpsons video games.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We got to do the arcade game. We got to do the Genesis and Super Nintendo stuff. And unfortunately, most of it's bad, but it will still be interesting to do.
Yeah, fun to talk about at least.
There's not a lot of good ones until you get, besides the arcade game, which is wonderful, but there's not a lot of good ones until you get to like PS1, PS2 era.
Yeah, and then there's been nothing since the Simpsons game.
Is that right? They haven't put out anything?
Yeah, so EA's had the rights for like the longest time, and they're content just to do the Simpsons Tapped Out mobile game and leave it at that.
Oh wow, okay. Have you ever looked at that?
I think I played it for like a minute and went, yeah, I'm not really into like the SimCity thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't get into that either. It sucks when your favorite things only go to video game types that you're not real into, because that's the problem I have with Jurassic Park right now.
Oh yeah,
is
absolutely.
Like there's a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, I guess, like park builder that people love, and I'm just not into that kind of gameplay.
People have been asking for new hit and run for like over a decade at this point.
Yeah. Maybe someday.
Yeah, maybe someday. I'd be happy even if they just re-released the Simpsons game, because that's really fun too.
Yeah, or do like a remaster of it.
Exactly.
It's
something.
Yeah, it's interesting that Simpsons hasn't had anything in a long time since like South Park has actually kind of continued to put games out.
Yeah, you would think they would jump on that, but no,
sad.
They make too much money off the mobile thing.
Because see, I feel like there's a real missed opportunity to not do a big open world Simpsons game.
Well, especially now, like obviously like a remaster of Hit and Run would be cool, but like you could do just like a new version of that take where you can have it all as one world now instead of the segments.
Yeah. Yeah, do an update to it.
Mm-hmm. That'd be great.
Well, we are right at 3 hours. Let's call it a night. Everybody, thanks a lot for listening and watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will try not to be too long to come back for season 5. I'm excited. I feel like I'm getting into a groove. I'm ready to get back into this.
Yeah, it was great, and it's my favorite season next time, so... Yep.
I can't wait to find out why. I imagine there will be more episodes this season that I have seen. What season, or maybe we already talked about it. What season is Bart falling into the well? Was that 3?
Yes.
Okay. That was the episode that played the most when I was a kid. I probably saw that like 14 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's got that awesome We Are the World parody.
Oh, that's right. Guys, thanks for staying up with us if you were watching live, and thanks for watching after the fact. Leave a comment. Tell us what your favorite episode is, especially if it happens to not be the Monorail episode. But I'm glad we got to watch that together.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
That blew by, man. It's just like gag after gag after gag.
Yeah, it's just how I would describe the season. Like, it's just so funny.
Yeah, it's really tight with its timing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Everything is ironed out.
Yeah, it's really polished, which is impressive because of how rushed they were.
Mm-hmm. I know, right?
I don't know how it came together that way, and with that many episodes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's only going to get better, in my opinion.
Oh boy, I'm excited. Well, I'm thinking of stuff down the road that I'm really excited to watch and talk about with you, like the X-Files episode.
Oh yeah, which I think is 6. It's either 6 or 8. I always mix up episodes between the two. But
okay, well, so 4 or 8 years down the road, we'll talk about it. Anyway,
exactly.
I'm just joking. Thanks again, folks. We'll see you again next time. I was Captain Logan, and this was our Simpsons expert, Austin, the Day Ghost. Later, folks. Bye, everybody.
I didn't do a daddy.
You gotta say it 20 different times.
And just be super sexy while I do it.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Yeah.